After months of campaigning, hundreds of rallies, thousands of handshakes, millions of dollars, it all comes down to a single day, primary day in New Hampshire, and that day is coming to quite a finish. As it unfolds, we'll start seeing early indicators of the final outcome. CNN's John King is back with what to watch for by the numbers. So let's talk about the Republican side. What are the keys to watch?
Just moments away, Anderson, from the first results. The map hasn't filled in yet, but it will soon. So these are the candidates in alphabetical order. Once the numbers start to come in, it'll flip up the leaderboard. Let's go back in 2012 and take a look for where to look on the Republican side. Most competitive Republican races in New Hampshire are settled down here, essentially from Concord down. The largest city is Manchester, so any Republican to win the state, you want to run up the vote total here. You see Mitt Romney did it 4 years ago. It was key. This is where the most votes are. Run up as much as you can. And then right around Manchester, Bedford, a big suburb where we've seen Kasich and Christie and Bush competing all the time. Dropping south toward the Massachusetts border, another big suburb, Merrimack. So for Republicans down here, south of Manchester, along the Massachusetts border, that's the rich area for votes. One other thing I would point out for Republicans, though, see all this peach color? That's Ron Paul, who ran second 4 years ago with 23% of the vote. Libertarians, live free or die is the state motto. If Ted Cruz is to have a strong showing, second or third, you'll see a lot of these counties lighting up for him. If Ted Cruz doesn't get those votes, they could have a big impact on who wins and what the margins are.
And on the Democratic side, obviously, Bernie Sanders has been leading in the polls. If Hillary Clinton is to have a good performance here, whether or not, even not a win, but just be closer to Sanders, where should we look on the map?
Let's look at the keys. And let's remember, in 2008, when she came back to win, 39%, 37%. Most of the night, Obama was ahead. Hillary Clinton came back to win. No John Edwards this time, so 39% won't be good enough. That's a key point, number one. She needs to outperform where she was in 2008. Just look at the map. For Bernie Sanders, let's start with him. Hanover. That's where Dartmouth is, a college town. Critical for Bernie Sanders. Also happens to be right along the Vermont border. Down here, another college town is Keene. Down here in this part of the state, Bernie Sanders wants to run it up in Keene. You see Barack Obama did as well. And also over here, Durham, where the University of New Hampshire is. For Hillary Clinton, she was the dark blue last time. Look what she did. Again, just like the Republicans, most of the votes are in Manchester. Look at the big margin here. This is where she came back late. Blue-collar, gritty, traditional Democratic workers. She needs to run it up there against Bernie Sanders, an interesting test of the economic argument in Manchester, which is the key. And just like the Republicans, Anderson, if you go down through the suburbs south of Manchester, down to Nashua, which is the second largest city, this is where Hillary Clinton did damage last time and caught up with a great turnout operation to beat Barack Obama, largely among traditional Democrats. She needs to match her map from 2008, but she needs to do better because, again, in a two-way race, 39% won't be good enough.
That is a lot to watch for. Is there any shortcut for Clinton?
Well, if you want to be lazy, there's a shortcut for both races. Let's do this. Let me just show you this county right here. This is Laconia, right? It's up in the center part of the state. It's only 1.2% of the population. But look at this. In Laconia in 2008, 38, 37, 19. Let's look at the statewide results. Pretty close, right? Laconia tracks him. So what about on the Republican side? Let's switch over to the Republicans. Let's come back over to Laconia. Look, 42, 22, 14. Not bad. Pretty close to the statewide results. Laconia has a very good track record of getting both races right. So if you want to be lazy, that's one place to watch. I'll give you one other, Anderson. Over here, right along the main border, Rochester. It is not only the birthplace of the Lyndon LaRouche, who runs for president all the time. It is a county that since 1972, that's 11 presidential cycles, 44 years, all but once, Rochester has picked both the Democrat and the Republican winner. Only in 1992 Democratic race did Rochester get it wrong. But they got it right when Mitt Romney won, they got it right when John McCain won, and they got it right when Hillary Clinton won. So if you want to be lazy, watch Laconia and Rochester, Anderson, but then you'd miss all the fun because it's going to be a good night.
All right, a lot to watch for. John, thanks. Not long from now, we could be seeing some results, seeing whether the polling was accurate, or this being New Hampshire, whether we've got surprises in store in the nation's first primary. Big night either way. We'll be taking you through it all. Our CNN primary night coverage continues.
It's New Hampshire's turn to shake up the presidential race.
For some candidates, this may be the end of the line.
In the Northeast right now, the ground is shifting in the presidential campaign, with two insurgents counting on a comeback.
Now is not the time for establishment politics.
I'm #1 in New Hampshire. Will you please keep me there? This is ridiculous.
Who will rise and fall in round two? It's New Hampshire's choice. Tonight, in the Republican race,
go and vote.
Donald Trump fighting for his first win after a bitter loss to Ted Cruz in Iowa.
These politicians are brutal. They are a bunch of dishonest cookies.
I don't think people are interested in a temper tantrum, or you could call it a Trumper tantrum.
The two-way brawl, now a free-for-all, after Marco Rubio's support surged.
We are not waiting any longer to take our country back.
For other GOP rivals, New Hampshire may be do or die.
This state is it for me.
New Hampshire voters, reset elections. You all are the most powerful people in the world.
In the Democratic race tonight,
The American people are saying no to a rigged economy.
Bernie Sanders aiming for his first win after a razor-thin loss to Hillary Clinton in Iowa.
We've been fighting the progressive fight and getting results.
Their face-off now more fiery than ever as they battle for votes in his backyard.
We will transform this country.
Let's go win the nomination.
Now it's time for voters to have their say.
You gotta get out and vote. No matter where you are, no matter how you feel, I don't give a damn.
If you thought the first contest was intense, get ready for the rematch.
I've won and I've lost. It's a lot better to win.
New Hampshire is choosing. The field is narrowing. And this night may shatter expectations again.
Take a look at this. These are pictures from New Hampshire. Look at this. Traffic is gridlocked in Merrimack as voting continues in parts of the state. Look at this. We're also seeing very long lines of people at a polling place in Hudson, New Hampshire. That's right outside of Nashua. We're standing by also for the first results of the leadoff primary election of 2016. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer in the CNN Election Center. The presidential race is down to 8 Republicans and 2 Democrats in a pair of contests that are more competitive than ever. And we're counting down to our first chance to project one or possibly both winners once all the polling places in the state are closed. That happens less than 1 hour from now. On the Republican side, Donald Trump has high expectations that he could pull off his first win. But New Hampshire voters, they are famous for making up their minds at the last minute, so there could be surprises. There's also a volatile race unfolding to be Trump's strongest competition tonight. Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, John Kasich, Jeb Bush, they were all in the top tier heading into this primary. The battles for second and third place could be squeakers. For the Democrats, Bernie Sanders is looking for a clear and commanding win over Hillary Clinton tonight. The Vermont senator has an advantage coming from the state right next door. But don't forget, the Clintons are known for comebacks in New Hampshire. Let's go straight to Jake Tapper and Dana Bash there in Manchester for us right now. Guys, this is going to be an exciting night.
A very exciting night. And Dana, I have to say, I mean, 2 years ago, if someone told you that Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders were favored to win the New Hampshire primary based on polls, you'd say, on what planet?
Yeah, exactly. And not just that, if they do end up winning tonight, it actually will show that maybe New Hampshire doesn't fly in the face so much of what happens in Iowa, because they have been in double-digit leads since September in most polls.
In New Hampshire. Absolutely. We have correspondents at key locations across the Granite State at polling sites and inside the campaigns. Let's first go to Jim Acosta. He's at Donald Trump's headquarters here in Manchester. Jim.
Jake and Dana, a top Trump campaign official tells me they are seeing jaw-dropping, record-breaking turnout across the state of New Hampshire, so much so that they are now keeping their eyes on certain polling places that they are insisting stay open late. They're hearing reports of long lines, especially in the town of Merrimack. And Donald Trump, I'm told, does not want anybody turned away, period. Now, one top official here tells me in the state that at this point they are confident Donald Trump will win tonight. They are okay with a 1-point win, I'm told by this official, but they want to win big. 10 points, 20 points. That's how they want to send a message to the rest of the Republican field tonight. And one more item from a top GOP operative in this state. Internal polling at a rival campaign, not Donald Trump's, is showing that the undecideds here in New Hampshire are breaking away from Rubio after his debate performance over the weekend. This operative believes that may help Donald Trump in the end here. Jake and Dana.
Oh, fascinating. Thanks, Jim. Let's go to Sarah Murray now. She's at the headquarters in Concord, New Hampshire, of Ohio Governor John Kasich. Sarah?
Jake, I don't think a couple weeks ago we would have been talking about John Kasich as one of the expected potential top finishers here in New Hampshire. But look, his campaign is dialed in on those independent voters tonight. Their internal polling, as well as polling from rival campaigns, has been showing that independents are breaking late in Kasich's favor. So they're going to be looking for those folks to potentially carry them, they say, here at the Kasich campaign to a second place finish. Now, that is a far cry for a campaign that has been languishing in the single digits and has mostly stayed away from this expectations game. But they say that Marco Rubio's stumbles on the debate stage, as well as an intense push on the ground here, could help them with a strong finish tonight. They brought in more than 500 volunteers from out of state, and about 250 of those were out pounding the pavement today, trying to move those undecided voters into their camp just hours before the polls closed. As for the candidate, he's fitting in a little R&R before things really get moving tonight. He went to the gym a little bit earlier. He will be joining his wife to go out to dinner, and of course we'll expect to hear from him a little bit later. Back to you, Jake and Dana.
Thanks, Sarah. Those undeclared or independent candidates, so important in New Hampshire. They are the largest voting group in the state, almost 400,000 of them, and there are a lot of candidates in competition for them. Trump, and of course Kasich, and of course Sanders. And let's check in with Brianna Keeler. She's at the headquarters of Bernie Sanders, who until recently was an independent. Brianna.
Hi there, Jake. Well, so much for managing expectations. Bernie Sanders is expecting a big win here in New Hampshire tonight, and you can tell that by the fact that he already has his victory lap planned. We've learned that he'll be going to New York City, where he will appear on The View, as well as on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. We've also learned he'll be meeting tomorrow with Reverend Al Sharpton as he tries to secure the endorsements of prominent African Americans as he looks towards South Carolina, where he is struggling with black voters compared to Hillary Clinton. A top aide to Sanders telling CNN that they have not seen a concession speech, so that shows you just how confident Bernie Sanders is. And he spent the day like a candidate who does think he's going to win. Breakfast with the family. He went to just one polling station before taking a walk and heading to his hotel, where he's going to watch the results come in. We understand Bernie Sanders, when he comes here tonight, if this primary goes his way, he's going to relish this moment and make the case that this is bigger, his win, his potential win here, bigger than just New Hampshire, as he looks toward Nevada as well as South Carolina, guys.
Thanks, Brianna. We'll come back to you very shortly. And the big question for Sanders is, if he does indeed win here in New Hampshire, is he then the frontrunner? And if so, does he then get the scrutiny that has fallen upon frontrunners in the past?
Well, you know, if you're the Clinton campaign, you're thinking if he is considered the frontrunner, maybe that's good because she tends to run better as the underdog. But one thing I'm struck by, again, and listening to all of our colleagues out there, is how incredibly important these undeclared or independent voters are. I was over at Kasich headquarters today, and there was a guy who had made 500 calls just in the first few hours of the day, and his pitch was specifically to undeclared voters who they thought were leaning towards Bernie Sanders, saying, come on, you think Bernie Sanders is going to win. Why don't you try to stop Trump and come vote Kasich? It's that strategic when it comes to trying to game out these swing voters, literally these swing voters.
Of course, Donald Trump very appealing to a lot of these independent voters
That's right.
as well, not being part of really the establishment in terms of politicians. Let's go back now to Washington, D.C., the election center, and Wolf Blitzer. Wolf?
All right, guys, thanks very much. Take a look at this. Look at these long lines, both in Hudson, New Hampshire, as well as Merrimack, New Hampshire. People have less than an hour to go ahead and vote. We're awaiting the first real votes coming in right now. I want to go quickly to Brian Todd. He's in Hudson, New Hampshire. Brian, say the scene for us. This is right near Nashua.
That's right, Wolf. A dynamic turnout here in Hudson. My photojournalist Bob Crowley and I are going to move along the line. Let's go, Bob. This line extends about 60 feet out the door. It's been doing that now for a couple of hours. This place could break its record. About 9,000 voters came here in 2012, about the same in 2008. They think they've got a good shot to eclipse that because as of an hour ago, more than 7,000 had been here, and these lines are out the door. Now, here's an update from the moderator of this precinct. He says, if you're in the line here, even way out the door by 8 o'clock when the polls close, you're going to get in and vote. Let's show you something else here that we can illustrate this with. Look at this line of cars over here. It extends at least, careful, Bob, there's someone backing out here. It extends at least 6 blocks back. At one point, it extended about a mile back. And the moderator just told me a short time ago that even these people in the cars way back, blocks back, they're going to try to get all of them in, even if it's after the polls close. So they may extend that time. The undeclared voters are also the real story here. We've seen several hundreds of undeclared voters come in and declare one way or the other. We believe they favor the Republicans based on what we've observed and what the moderator has told us. But again, they don't have an official count of that. This is the first election where you have to show a photo ID to get in here, so that may account for some of the lines, but it really is the dynamic turnout that is driving this right now. Well,
it certainly is, Brian. Thanks very much. The polls there in Hudson, they close at the top of the hour, about 50 minutes or so from now. All the polls in the state close at the top of the hour. That's when we'll get the first real indications of who is winning. Will it be Bernie Sanders? Will it be Donald Trump? What is going on in this race for the White House? The first real results are about to come in. We're getting initial results, real votes coming in. Let's take a quick break. Much more right after this. We're just being told by the Deputy Secretary of State of New Hampshire that he believes there could be record turnout in the state on this primary in New Hampshire. They won't know for sure till the top of the hour. That's when all the polls in New Hampshire are closed, but potentially record turnout. The first votes, by the way, are about to be released. We'll get to them momentarily. I want to share that with our viewers. Look at these long lines, though, especially in Hudson, just outside of Nashville. Look at these long lines. There's word now that potentially they could extend the deadline. They're supposed to close polling at the top of the hour, but people are lined up, and they've been lined up for a while there. Brian Todd, tell us what's going on over there in Hudson. Is it possible they may extend the deadline?
Well, if the moderator did tell us it is possible they'll extend it. They do want to close this at 8 o'clock. We're going to move along the line here and show you just the crush of people. This really started in earnest, this latest influx, during about the rush hour time, about 4 o'clock Eastern time. They really started to pile in here, but it's been a steady flow all day. The moderator says he would like to close the doors at 8 o'clock, but he may extend it a little bit. They really just want to get everybody in who wants to vote. That's what they really want. That's what they're going to try to accomplish. They have these volunteers here who are scrambling, working in overdrive to manage this crush of people. But it's been very orderly, been very high-spirited. Let's show you over here. It's been like this all day since we got here, Wolf, several hours ago. Lines of cars. They want to get all these people in, too. So the moderator says if you're in a line of cars, they're going to try to get you in here, try to get you parked. And at some point, he says they might ask a police officer to stand at the end of one of the lines of cars and say that's it. But they're going to try to avoid that, Wolf.
All right, Brian, stand by. We're going to get back to you. I want to go to Kate Baldwin. She's in Chichester for us. That's outside of Concord right now. I take it they're counting ballots over there already, Kate?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Wolf. I'm going to step out of the way so you can see this truly unique process that they've just started. They pulled out the tables, and what you're seeing play out here, we're going to show you real close. Jay McMichael's going to push in. They dumped all of the ballots out, separated them all up. Then now they're dividing them into blue and pink. Blue are the Democratic ballots. Pink are the Republican ballots. Before they start tallying results, they're going to all count just all the pieces of paper so they can get a firm read on what the turnout is here. You've got 3 tables, teams of 2 that are going to be counting through these numbers. This is just starting as we speak. Once they get these numbers, then they will start going through the results one by one and tallying them up. And then the moderator, Ewan, right here, he will eventually be announcing the final results. The early read, they had suggested to me early, Wolf, that they seemed on track to have a big turnout here in Chichester. They had handed out 1,250 ballots. That was early. That was before even the last people had voted. The last big number was in 2008, where there was just over 1,100 was their total turnout. So it's looking to be on track for a big turnout. The counting of the turnout is just beginning, Wolf.
It is. I love to see those pictures. Democracy in action. Kate Baldwin, thanks very much. I want to walk over to David Chalian, our CNN political director. You're looking at the exit poll numbers, and it's pretty fascinating what's going on.
Well, you were talking with Jake and Dana before about those all-important independent voters. These are the undeclared voters. They make up the largest swath overall of the voters in New Hampshire. And take a look at how they're playing in the primaries. If you look at the Democratic electorate today, 41% of those voting in the Democratic primary today are undeclared or independent voters. 55% are Democrats. If you look at the Republican primary electorate today, you see that 35% of them are independents, 62% are Republicans. So what you're seeing here, Wolf, is that the independents are infiltrating, if you will, choosing to play in a greater degree in the Democratic primary than they are in the Republican primary. And if I was sitting in Bernie Sanders' headquarters tonight, I would look at that and say, wow, 4 out of 10 Democratic primary voters are independents. They have been part of fueling Bernie Sanders' candidacy thus far. I would look at that number and think that that was a really good number for me tonight.
All right. I think your assessment is obviously correct. All right. Let's go to Anderson. Anderson, this is a moment that a lot of people have been waiting for right now.
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting to actually have a night where we're going to get the votes finally from this first primary state. I want to go to our reporters and our analysts table over here. We have Gloria Borger, CNN chief political analyst, Naomi Malika Henderson, CNN senior political reporter, David Axelrod, senior political commentator, and obviously former senior Obama advisor, Michael Smerconish, CNN host of Smerconish. Gloria and David, you have been looking very closely at these exit polls. What stands out to you?
Well, you want to start with the
Democrats.
We'll start with the Democrats. What stands out to me is the independent voters that David was just talking about, because Sanders is grabbing a large chunk of those independent voters, almost 3-1, or
well, we can say in Iowa he won by 73%.
And here it looks to be about the same, could be about the same. And
we can't say for sure how they're voting.
Exactly,
but just in terms of turnout, we're seeing a large number.
But the point is, we know that he has a propensity to take a lot of these independent voters. So the fact that so many of these voters are independent is great news for him.
Right.
On the Republican side, the fact that there's such an anti-establishment mood among the Republicans.
A lot of Republicans feeling betrayed by the GOP.
About half of them. And that is a real playground for Donald Trump. And you know that he's going to do very well with those voters. So the front runners going in would look at these exit poll numbers and say there's a lot to feel good about right now.
You know, I think voters on both sides feel betrayed by the establishment to a degree. Hillary Clinton is running on her experience. Bernie Sanders, while he's been in Washington for a very long time, is running more or less as an insurgent, saying the government doesn't work for you, the government is corrupt, and that the campaign finance system is corrupt. And that, by the way, is kind of what Donald Trump is saying. There are the flip sides of the same.
And Nia and Michael Smerconish, earlier, David Chalian was showing us more exit polls in which electability, which is something Hillary Clinton has run on, scored very low in terms of what voters were thinking about mainly when they go into the voting booth. Really what they were looking for was honesty and
empathy.
Cares about me.
Bernie's wheelhouse.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things, sort of off camera, Hillary Clinton's campaign has been sending information about South Carolina, right? All the people she's lining up in terms of endorsements. So they're clearly looking ahead to South Carolina.
She was also in Nevada.
She was also
she
was in Flint, Michigan. She's going to go to Nevada. She's going to go to South Carolina. She rolled out all these endorsements. So they are clearly trying to look past what is probably going to be a drubbing tonight. I think one of the things that's interesting, looking at the exit polls in terms of the GOP, Rubio has come in saying that he's the consensus candidate, right? That he can bridge all of the different
He's running
divides.
on electability as well.
Electability, but also a bridge builder between all of the different strains of the Republican Party. It looks like that's something that Trump is going to be able to do. If you look at some of these exit polls, he does well with voters across all spectrums. He comes in second. I mean, he does pretty well among evangelicals, higher income voters, higher educated voters, lower income voters. So I think that's going to be, I mean, we've seen that previously in the polls, but to see it here with some of these voters voting.
It's an interesting night insofar as if the predictions come true, the real story won't be who wins the Democratic or the Republican primary, but rather the second place finish among the R's. And the data that I'm looking at, I think, tees up quite nicely for John Kasich, among others. And what's ironic, Anderson, to me, is that this is an electorate that largely mirrors what you'll get in a general election for the country at large, meaning the independents play a very large role. 42%, according to Gallup, are I's. They're not R's and they're not D's. in New Hampshire, they get a say, and they're probably going to determine the outcome of both the Republican and the Democratic race. I don't know that Kasich gets another scenario like this as we look forward in the next couple of primaries. So it's really an important night for him in particular.
And I mean, he's invested, as has Jeb Bush, and now most recently Chris Christie, I mean, an awful lot of time in New Hampshire. He's done more than 100 town halls, according to him.
I think
they
may be eligible to vote there, actually. They've been there so much.
The interesting thing about Christie to me in all of this is that he started this campaign as the tell it like it is candidate. And then came Donald Trump. And suddenly, if you look at these early exit polls, that Donald Trump is now the tell it like it is candidate, and Christie not so much.
We're going to take a quick break. We are standing by for the first raw vote totals to come in on this important primary night. And take a look at that. In that traffic gridlock in Merrimack, police cruisers are marking the end of the line. If cars are ahead of the police cruiser, they can get in to vote. If they're behind, they cannot. Keeping a close watch on this situation. A lot more ahead. Amazing, amazing night ahead.
We're standing by momentarily. We're going to get the first real numbers coming in from New Hampshire. But look at these long lines. In most of the state, the polls are already closed, but some places are still open for another half hour or so. There are long lines. They may have to extend the polling opportunities for the people there. Jake and Dana are in Manchester for us. This is a moment, half an hour to go, but it could be extended.
It's incredibly exciting, and obviously the Secretary of State has talked about the turnout in New Hampshire and how strong it is expected to be. What exactly is going on in Merrimack, which is south of us in the southern part of New Hampshire?
What's going on now is the traffic pattern was apparently changed in order to try to help with voting, and it for some reason had the opposite effect. There's a real bottleneck there. So at this point, police cruisers are marking the end of the line, and we're talking about the line on the road, not the line of people. They haven't even gotten close to the polling stations. And right now, everybody on the far side of the police cruiser, you're too late.
You're out of luck.
They're saying you're out of luck. But, and this is an important but, Dan Scanlon, the Deputy Secretary of State of New Hampshire, says that they are considering, quote, other strategies and are talking to people inside the polling place, assuming other strategies means because of the problems, perhaps leaving it open later.
But to be clear, this is not only because of the traffic patterns. This is because of such a strong
but there are
turnout
a lot of people, of course,
in the town of Merrimack, which is south of us. And just to give a little bit more context, this is a town that Hillary Clinton won over Barack Obama in 2008, and it's an area that basically broke even between Mitt Romney and John McCain in 2008. We have correspondents fanned out across all of the state at ballot centers as well as election HQs. Let's go to Joe Johns, who is at a voting place, voting precinct, ballot counting area in Manchester, New Hampshire. Joe, what's going on?
Well, this is just one precinct. This is just one ward. It's in the center of Manchester. What I can tell you is Bernie Sanders has won decisively here in this one place. 61% for Bernie Sanders. Hillary Clinton in second place. 38% for Hillary Clinton. On the Republican side, Donald Trump 48% and 46% for Trump there. Second behind him, of course, is Cruz with 15%, and in third place was Jeb Bush. So that is the count here from this one precinct, this one ward in central Manchester. Of course, it is not indicative of the big picture, but in this one place, a big win for Bernie Sanders as well as for Donald Trump. Back to you.
All right, Joe Johns at a ballot cam location in Manchester, New Hampshire. Let's go back to our election center in Washington, D.C. Wolf Blitzer has some breaking news. Wolf.
All right, we have a key race alert on the Democratic side. Take a look at this. Right now, 1% of the vote is in. These are actual votes, the first votes that have been counted, reported. Bernie Sanders is ahead by 252 votes over Hillary Clinton, 58%, 38%. No votes yet reported on the Republican side. Once again, this is very, very early. These are the first real votes. Let's go over to John King over at the Magic Vault. Show us what's going on in Merrimack, because this is significant potentially. John, you're familiar with this area.
Well, let me go back to 2008. We're just starting to see some results fill in, but let me show you what we're talking about down here. We're talking about south of Manchester. I want to go back to the 2008 race in the Democratic primary. Merrimack is right up here, just above you're south of Manchester, north of Nashua. It's about 2% of the state population. It was very big for Hillary Clinton in the very close 2008 race, which she narrowly won there. And then Hudson is just down here to the south. You pull it up. Nashua is very important to Secretary Clinton tonight. Here's Hudson over here. Again, 2% of the state population, an area where she did very well with blue-collar traditional Democrats and suburbanites along the Massachusetts border. So it is key in the Democratic race tonight. And Wolf, as Jake just noted, it's also key in Republican politics, too, as well. Mitt Romney, a big win in Hudson. Again, all of the governors have been down here. Chris Christie, Jeb Bush, John Kasich, Marco Rubio, all competing down in here. And you come back up here to Merrimack as well. Very important to Mitt Romney. If you go back in time to the very close 2008 Republican race, this is it. This is the battle that we're going to see for the center-right Republicans tonight and for Donald Trump if he can make inroads. These suburban voters who live in the southern part of the state, key to the Republicans. You see how hard-fought it was in Merrimack. And let's come over here to Hudson. Again, how hard-fought it was between Romney and McCain. This similar, 2 candidates fighting for it in the race in 2008, 4 or 5 candidates fighting for it this time. So those votes, those people waiting in line, they matter. They matter to Hillary Clinton, and they matter as we try to shake out the center-right of the Republican race.
It's pretty significant, though. The Deputy Secretary of State says potentially record numbers, and now we're getting word they may have to keep those polls open a little bit longer because of those long lines.
You can be certain that the campaigns that think they're going to do well in Hudson and here in Merrimack are on the phone to the state saying, let those people vote. And so if they try to stop people when they're in line, the polls are not officially closed yet, those people are there, their intention is clear. If the state says, well, it's getting out of control, or we don't have parking, or the traffic line's too long and puts a police cruiser there, you can be sure the Clinton campaign and the governors, the center-right candidates, are going to be on the phone to the state saying, keep them open, let them vote.
All right, Anderson, I want to go back to you. The first real numbers are coming in. We're going to update our viewers.
Yeah, we'll watch that closely. Let's talk to our commentator, Jeffrey Lord, who's a Trump supporter, former Reagan White House political director, S.E. Cupp, political commentator, Van Jones, political commentator, former Obama administration official, and Mayor Michael Nutter, the former mayor of Philadelphia, also a political contributor. When you see these long lines, I mean, the idea that they would shut it off sort of arbitrarily where a police cruiser is,
they will
does that concern you?
They will find the first guy behind that police cruiser, and there's your lawsuit.
Right.
Right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and expect any candidate who doesn't win or perform to say, well, none of my voters, you know, my supporters who were going to come in late and they were shut out. That's why I didn't close the
As you look at these, the exit polls, what stands out to you all?
Well, was it 35% independents in the, or you know, in the Republican primary?
Lower percentage than in the Democratic,
right?
But
but still a lot of folks there.
More than 1/3.
You know, again, this open rebellion, this civil war in the Republican Party is.
And nearly half in the GOP voters are saying they feel betrayed by the party itself.
Correct. I mean, this is just unbelievably fertile ground here, and so I really think this is going to be a big night for Donald Trump, but we will see.
On our side, the revolution is real. The revolution is real.
It's real in New Hampshire.
Hey, listen.
Okay.
Hey, listen. Hey, watch this process go forward. First of all, let's just not take anything away from New Hampshire. The Clintons, God bless them, they didn't cede the state. They went in and they fought very, very hard. They threw the kitchen sink at Bernie Sanders. They brought in senators. They brought in governors. They brought in feminist icons. They threw the kitchen, and they could not stop him, apparently, if you look at how this thing is going down. I think that you have a young generation trying to send a signal to the Democratic Party. These people, they don't hate Hillary Clinton. They don't feel heard yet. And they're trying to send a signal. In that state, you've got crushing student debt. It's like one of the 3 worst states for student debt. And so I think what you're going to see when you have this level of participation, this many independents not wanting to vote with you guys, trying to come into this party to send a signal, I think that this Bernie Sanders surge is a real thing.
Then the question becomes, in Nevada, in South Carolina, Nevada's obviously next for the Democrats, how big a victory for Sanders here, how does that impact
There's
Nevada?
a big myth that Bernie Sanders cannot do well in South Carolina with African Americans. Bernie Sanders can get 30, 35, maybe 40% of the vote in South Carolina. Listen, part of the thing that's very interesting is when you talk to the younger people, they respect the Clintons, but there's no great well of love for the Clintons. These people were not even born, some of them, when the Clintons were in office. She's going to have to work very, very hard with that young black vote, just like she had to work hard for that young white vote.
I think if Hillary...
I think before we call the race for this evening, why don't we let the folks in New Hampshire vote? All of them, and all should be able to vote, whether you're physically with your body in line or apparently now in your car.
Exactly.
Everyone should be able to vote. And come back to what Jeff said. Every vote should be counted, and every person should have their franchise recognized. Second, You know, if many of these young people weren't alive while the Clintons were in office, they definitely weren't alive while Bernie Sanders has been in office. So, I mean, again, let's see what's going on and what's on people's minds. We know from some of the other polling data, the economy, the student loan debt you talked about, and just a general sense of what's going on. So people have a lot of things on their mind that they're upset about. Senator Sanders certainly has a piece of a message that has resonated with folks. Secretary Clinton has solutions to those challenges, and that's the battle that you're seeing.
I think if Hillary Clinton gets one decisive, and I mean blowout victory, maybe in South Carolina or Nevada, that really is the proof that she's been sort of evidencing and suggesting that he's unelectable. She doesn't have that yet.
Right.
He's electable in Iowa. He's electable in New Hampshire. She needs that moment where she can prove, see, I told you guys, he just can't do it nationally.
More to talk about. Let's go back to Wolf right now.
All right, we have another key race alert. Want to go first to the Democratic side. 1% of the vote is now in. Bernie Sanders is ahead by 400 votes or so, 57% to 39%. Still very, very early in this contest. On the Republican side, we're finally getting the initial numbers coming in from the Republican side as well. 1% of the precincts reporting. Donald Trump is ahead by 300-plus votes, 42%. Ted Cruz and John Kasich, they're sort of tied at 11% right now. 9% for Marco Rubio, 9% for Jeb Bush. Chris Christie, 7%. Carly Fiorina, 4%. Ben Carson, 3%. But once again, these are initial numbers, very, very early. Donald Trump coming out to an initial lead. We're also standing by for more raw vote totals. They're just starting to come in. As you can see, people continuing to line up to vote in parts of the state. We're closing in on our first chance to project winners tonight as well. Once all the polls in the state are closed, that happens right at the top of the hour. We're just getting started. We'll be right back. All right, we have another key race alert that's just coming in right now on the Republican side. 1% of the precincts reporting Donald Trump maintaining an impressive lead, 532 votes ahead of Ted Cruz. John Kasich also doing well right now at 10%, Cruz at 11%, Bush at 10%, 9% for Marco Rubio, 7% for Chris Christie, 4% for Carly Fiorina, 2% for Dr. Ben Carson. There's a battle underway for second place, but once again, this is early, 1% of the vote in, Trump doing very well. On the Democratic side, 2% of the vote is now in. Bernie Sanders, he's 573 votes ahead of Hillary Clinton, 54% to 44%. Once again here, it's still early. I want to go to Brian Todd. He's over in Hudson, New Hampshire right now, where the lines, I guess they're getting ready to close the polling at the top of the hour. Brian, what's the latest there? Are they going to extend opportunity for people to vote?
They may do that, Wolf. They are ready to close the polls at 8 o'clock. The line here has physically thinned out a little bit, taking you to the door here, but it goes another 60 feet to the tables where you check in. Now, what we've learned from the moderator a short time ago is here are the lines of cars. This is going to be key. They're going to station police officers at the ends of the lines of cars at 8 o'clock to mark the close of the vote. Anybody beyond that's not going to be able to vote, but still a steady stream of cars is coming in here. They want to try to get all of these people in, Wolf. The volunteers here have really been scrambling all night long to get these volunteers here. The story of this precinct today, as many places in New Hampshire, the undeclared voters. We can come in a little bit here. I can kind of take you toward the desks here where the people check in. The undeclared voters have really been the story here. Hundreds of them have come in as undeclared. Then they've broken one way or the other. It takes the average voter about 35 seconds to vote. And what's interesting about this place is, Wolf, if you're undeclared and then you go one way and you want to remain undeclared, you can re-register at another desk to remain undeclared. That, you know, the slogan of this state is live free or die. You can't get more free voting practices than that than here in New Hampshire. Another interesting thing, this is a sample ballot that we've got here. There are 30 names running for president on the Republican side, 28 on the Democratic side. If you pay $1,000 to the Secretary of State of New Hampshire, you can run for president in New Hampshire. They have got to count all the votes for all these people once these polls close, Wolf.
Interesting, a little nugget over there. We'll see what happens at the top of the hour, Brian. thanks very much. I want to go back to John King over at the Magic Wall. You're taking a very close look. These are initial numbers. What, 3% of the Democratic precincts reporting now Bernie Sanders still considerably ahead over Hillary Clinton.
And very, very early results. We want to make that clear. These communities in the northern part of the state, they're the ones that voted at midnight last night. So what we're watching for really is where most of the people live down here. It is no surprise, early results. I'm going to pull out Concord. This is the capital city, a little over 3% of the population. It's no surprise with 10% of the vote in Concord to see Bernie Sanders in the lead, because this is traditionally a more liberal part of the state. Barack Obama carried it in the 2008 race. This down here in Manchester, this is the largest basket of votes in the state. 8.3% of the state population, critical to both the Democrats and the Republicans because it's the largest population center. If this stays light blue, Bernie Sanders blue throughout the night, game over. This is where Hillary Clinton came back.
Look at this,
33% right now. We got a ways to go. And remember, in 2008, we got up to a certain point, and then we were here for a while. And Obama looked like he had momentum, and then Hillary Clinton did this. And she won quite convincingly in Manchester, which made up the difference in a very narrow victory statewide. Manchester was it. It was pretty much the whole. There are other places that were critical, but the votes in Manchester were the game for Hillary Clinton back in 2008. So if you want to watch one place tonight, see if this stays Bernie Sanders, the lighter blue. If it changes back to Hillary Clinton, then we know she's more in the hunt. And as you mentioned, as we talked a little bit about earlier, here's Manchester here. Then we go down here. This is Merrimack, where we're waiting to see how the votes. We don't have anything in yet. This is where we've had some lines here. And Brian Todd was just talking to us about Hudson, which is down here next to Nashua. Again, I just want to remember those communities, Merrimack and Hudson. This is Nashua. Let's go back in time to 2008. All for Hillary Clinton. These are traditional blue-collar Democrats that she was able to win against Barack Obama in a three-man race. The big question tonight is, can she win those traditional blue-collar Democrats in a head-to-head against Bernie Sanders?
Still very early. We'll see what happens. What about the Republican side?
Let's peek it over, come back to 2016, flip over to the Republicans. Again, these communities here, Dixville Notch and the other tiny communities that voted last night. So what are we waiting for so far? The only votes we have so far are from Manchester, as I just said, and Donald Trump winning the statewide count at 34%. Let's pop it open to Manchester. 25% in so far, 35% for Trump, 14% for John Kasich, the Ohio governor. Jeb Bush running third there at 11%. Let's scroll down a little bit. Marco Rubio at 10, Ted Cruz at 10, Chris Christie at 9. Carly Fiorina at 5. This is what we've been talking about for days leading into this. How would the center-right lane break? Would there be a muddle between those candidates? Well, 5, 9, that's 14. You don't count Cruz there. Rubio 10, that would get you to 24. That would get you to look at these. You're going to have at the end of the night. Early results suggest that Donald Trump is on his way. Let's count the votes. But you're going to have at the end of the night in the Kasich, Rubio, Bush, Christie, Fiorina count, that's going to get you above 50% of the vote. How it's split up, that's what we're waiting to find out. But that's going to get you above 50% of the vote, which is going to be the big conversation with the Republican establishment. But again, this is the biggest population center. This is where the most votes are. Donald Trump opens an early lead. You can do the math at home. If he keeps this color red all night, Donald Trump's on his way to his first win.
Early lead for Donald Trump, 2% of the vote is now in. He's still maintaining his lead, 33% for Trump, 18% for John Kasich, just in Concord City.
I just saw it.
What about statewide?
First votes just came in, so I popped that up to see what the numbers were. And statewide, with 2% in statewide, 34 to 15, similar.
Yep. All right, stand by, John. I want to go over to Jake and Dana there in Manchester for us right now. Very early, guys, but it's beginning to show a little indication of what's going on.
That's right. Very, very early, just 1 or 2% of the votes in, so you can't determine anything statewide. But still, they are in line with what we anticipated based on polls. Donald Trump having a good night on the Republican side, Bernie Sanders on the Democratic side.
Absolutely. Right now, it doesn't look like, again, very early.
A
big surprise there. But really, what we're looking at, and I think the most interesting thing is, even if that does happen, on the Republican side, that race for second, who's going to turn out on top, who's going to come in third and fourth, there's so much drama and there's so much tension. I've been texting with sources in all of those camps. It's really palpable.
Yeah, and Donald Trump has been a little bit chastened, with 1 or 2 exceptions, at a campaign event last night, for example, as he campaigns across New Hampshire, having now suffered a loss in Iowa, coming second there, not first as he hoped he would. Let's go to Jim Acosta, who is at Trump headquarters in Manchester. Jim, the returns are starting to come in. It looks as though very, very early that Donald Trump may, in fact, have the night he hoped he would have back in Iowa. What's the mood there?
Absolutely, Jake and Dana. Just to give you an example of what's happening in the room right now, we have all the TVs tuned inside this auditorium here to CNN, And so every time we're up on screen, every time you see the results on the screen behind me, this place starts to cheer. So they're starting to do that right now. They've been doing it every 10 minutes or so. So you can definitely feel the excitement building inside this room here in Manchester. They have a taste for what's about to be announced. They feel like later on this evening, and when you talk to the campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, he's pretty humble right now. He says he's got his head down. He's looking at the numbers. He's waiting for these results to come in before offering any kind of official response for the campaign. But when you talk to high-level people inside the state part of this campaign, they are predicting victory. They're feeling very good about tonight. And as you can hear this crowd behind me, every time CNN comes up on screen and shows those numbers that are starting to come in, they're getting very excited here, Jake and Dana.
Yeah, and Corey Lewandowski, the campaign manager for Donald Trump, a New Hampshire boy himself. He and his family live in New Hampshire. Of course, a lot of eyes are on Marco Rubio having finished and in a strong third-place finish in Iowa. A lot of people wondered if that was going to bring his campaign momentum, especially in that establishment lane, so-called establishment lane. Manu Raju is at Rubio campaign headquarters in Manchester, New Hampshire. Manu, very, very early returns in. Can't be predictive of what we're going to get for the rest of the night. But what is the mood at the Rubio headquarters?
Well, the mood is, Jake, that the Rubio campaign really believes they're going to end up in the top tier of candidates. And that's really sort of a change from earlier in the week, last week after Iowa, when they came out with a head of steam and polls showed them as a clear second place potential finisher, in which they could sort of make the case that they are the candidate that could unite the party establishment and take it to Donald Trump. But what they are saying here is that New Hampshire probably will not be a state that will winnow the field. It'll only muddle that establishment lane further and keep the race going. Now, the Rubio campaign also recognizes that they can't afford any sort of criticism over missed votes, something that Jeb Bush has been going after him pretty aggressively on. Just now, the Rubio campaign has announced that Marco Rubio will be returning to the Senate tomorrow to cast a vote on North Korea's sanctions legislation in order to make sure that he can claim that mantle, that foreign policy mantle that he's been running on pretty aggressively here. But clearly, Jake, one of the reasons why that this may not be a second place finish for Marco Rubio, which they hoped for earlier, is because of that debate performance on Saturday night. Increasingly, they believe that the media coverage, or relentless media coverage afterwards, really impacted his momentum going forward. They still hope to end up in the top tier, but not that first and second place finish that they initially hoped for after Iowa. Jake.
A devastating takedown of Marco Rubio at that debate, seeming to possibly have had an impact on his momentum in the state. Nobody happier about that, perhaps, than Senator Ted Cruz, who had that strong Iowa finish, first place in Iowa. Sunlen Serfati is at Cruz campaign headquarters in Hollis, New Hampshire. Sunlen, Senator Cruz, not necessarily a big public presence this week in New Hampshire, but he sure would love to come in top three.
That's absolutely right, Jake. I can tell you the mood here within the Cruz campaign is one of resignation, a very stark contrast than how this campaign was only a week ago going into Iowa and taking that Iowa victory. Much different mood here now. The Cruz campaign for a while has been setting their bar low for their performance here tonight. They've been saying all week they hope to come in fourth. Anything above that will make them very happy. They'll celebrate that. But just tonight, taking a little shift, saying that they now expect potentially fourth or fifth, so lowering expectations a bit more tonight. We do know that Senator Cruz has had a last-minute schedule change as well. He will speak here later tonight in Hollis whenever results come in. He will then travel on to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, hold an event there tomorrow morning, but then he will come off the campaign trail to do his day job. He will, like Senator Rubio, return to the Senate to cast his vote on the North Korea sanctions bill. His wife, Heidi, will take his place at an event that was scheduled for Spartanburg, South Carolina. He will then quickly hit the road back on the campaign trail in South Carolina. Jake, Dana.
All right, Sunlen Serfati at the Cruz campaign headquarters in Hollis, New Hampshire. Let's go to our colleague, Kate Baldwin. She is at a ballot cam in Chichester, New Hampshire. Kate, what's going on in Chichester?
Let me show you. I'm going to try to keep it down so I don't distract them because they are mid-count. This Chichester is where they hand count all the ballots here. And as you can see in these tables behind me, these are the tables. This table is counting the Democratic ballots, all of the blue ballots. all of the Democratic ballots right here. And then you have tables over here, as Jay McMichael can pan over here. You can see these pink ballots. This is where they're counting all the Republican ballots. These are very preliminary numbers. They're just starting to count them. They go very methodically, working in teams of two. One person calls out the candidate, the other person puts the tally on their sheet. Now, I'll tell you, Jake, we did get the preliminary turnout numbers from them, and they were already showing that they have what they think is a very big turnout so far. But we are mid-count right now, and we'll be bringing this to you.
All right, Kate Baldwin at the ballot cam in Chichester, New Hampshire. Anderson, back to you in campaign headquarters in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, we are just about 3 minutes or so away from the top of the hour when the polls are officially supposed to close, though, as you've seen in some places like in Merrimack, where there's that long line of cars, no doubt they're going to stay open. If you are in line at this point up until 8 o'clock, you should be allowed to vote in the state.
Right. Well, hopefully they would be allowed. We're too used to long lines at polling places in this country, and I think people who got in line to vote ought to probably be able to vote.
I mean, you and David Axelrod have been, and our entire panel of analysts over here, Michael Smerconish and Emily Anderson, you've all been looking at these exit polls. What has been jumping out at you just in the last few minutes?
There's one thing that's sort of becoming clear to me, and that is the muddle in the middle will remain.
There's not going to be a clearer picture necessarily on the Republican side.
Normally what happens in a Republican primary is that you have kind of an anointed establishment candidate, and then there's kind of a bevy of movement conservatives, right? That this year it's totally flipped, and there is kind of a different movement kind of candidate. You've got, your Trump populist, you've got your Cruz conservative, and then you have this huge group of establishment people who are trying to figure out the pecking order.
And the idea that after New Hampshire, that establishment sort of center-right order was going to be much clearer.
Right. It's not.
No, I think the whole circus moves on to South Carolina.
You look at the numbers right now with Kasich 17 again. This is only 3%, but 12%, 10%, 10%, 9%.
Yeah. No, I think what's likely to happen is that a whole bunch of them are going to move down to South Carolina, and that's good for Donald Trump.
Yep.
Because Donald Trump may have a ceiling, but that ceiling works for him as long as the field is large. So this is not just he'll be celebrating if he wins tonight, not just the win, but the lack of clarity among those who might want to oppose him.
And if you're Donald Trump and you do win tonight, you can say, look, I came in second in Iowa, and now I've won New Hampshire. That certainly bodes well moving forward.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. And I mean, South Carolina, that would be a good state for him in many ways. At least he's been leading in some of the polls down there. And again, if you have all of these people splitting, whether it's the evangelical vote or any other vote, you've got Jeb Bush down there, for instance, saying he's the one to kind of defend the military. It's a very military state in terms of a lot of bases. So, yeah, I mean, that debate, I think we'll see how much that mattered.
I'm wondering if the candidate within the muddle who has the most to lose tonight is Marco Rubio, because he did deliver that victory speech for his third-place finish in Iowa. It seemed like he had a head of steam. And then, of course, came last Saturday's debate, and perhaps we're going to see some of the residual impact of him being on the loop.
He had to distinguish himself this evening. That was the goal of their campaign.
To get past it.
To get over that, and
a lot
at
of
this point, we just don't know.
A lot of these establishment Republicans were on the runway, ready to go for Marco Rubio if he came through tonight.
Top of the hour, let's go to Wolf. Wolf.
All right, guys, thanks very much. We're getting ready right at the top of the hour. All the polls in New Hampshire will close. We will be ready to make projections in this race for the presidency of the United States. Let's go to the breaking news. CNN makes two projections in New Hampshire. CNN projects that Donald Trump will be the winner of the New Hampshire Republican primary. We also project that Bernie Sanders will be the winner of the Democratic primary in New Hampshire. There you see the winner, Donald Trump, the Republican primary winner. Bernie Sanders, we project, will be the Democratic winner. We make that projection on the basis of the exit poll information we have received. We also make that projection on the actual numbers, the actual votes that have already been tallied. All of the polls in those states, are now closed. Let's take a look at the pictures right now from Donald Trump headquarters. You can see they're beginning to get the word. They are ready to celebrate right now. Donald Trump headquarters, Bernie Sanders headquarters, they've got the word as well. The CNN projections. Trump is the winner in New Hampshire. Bernie Sanders is the winner in New Hampshire. The Republican race, the Democratic race, obviously a lot of excitement right there. The polls apparently were very accurate. On the basis of the actual numbers, though, and the exit polls, we have those projections. Let's go to Dana and Jake. Jake, this is a moment that Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump have been waiting for.
What a stunning, stunning moment, Wolf. And again, I say, 2 years ago, if somebody had told you that Bernie Sanders, an independent Democratic socialist from Vermont, and Donald Trump, a businessman and developer from New York City, were going to win the Democratic and Republican New Hampshire primaries, you would have said
easily.
You would have said I was crazy.
I would have said you were crazy. I have to be honest with you. And I think that what this does is obviously officially puts Donald Trump on the map and answers the question that we were talking about beforehand, which is whether or not he can bring those supporters to the polls. It didn't happen in Iowa as much as he wanted. It happened tonight. And it is pretty astonishing when you think about the fact that he's never been a politician before, ever. And he just won the New Hampshire primary.
It's astounding. It is a great night for Donald Trump, a great night for Bernie Sanders, a great night for their supporters, a horrible night for the Democratic establishment, and a horrible night for the Republican establishment, as CNN projects that Donald Trump will be the winner of the New Hampshire Republican primary, and Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont, will be the winner of the New Hampshire Democratic primary. Let's go right to Trump headquarters, where we have our own Jim Acosta. And Jim, I can't even imagine the shouting and cheering going on where you are.
Yes, that shouting and cheering has been going on for several minutes now, ever since CNN announced that Donald Trump has won the New Hampshire primary based on our projections. I can tell you right now that this is pretty much what the Trump campaign expected all along. They did not think that this was going to be a repeat of the Iowa caucuses. They felt that the Iowa caucuses were different, perhaps not well suited to their new voters coming to their campaign. Whereas in New Hampshire, this was about getting out the vote. And you saw in that big splashy rally, that pre-primary rally Donald Trump held last night, that he was feeling very confident. Otherwise, maybe he wouldn't have used some of that salty language that we heard from the candidate last night. But all day long, Donald Trump has been saying he thinks he's going to win, but he wasn't sure by how much. And when I talked to the Trump campaign manager not too long ago, Corey Lewandowski, who is a native of this state, by the way, he's getting a big win in this state as well, his home state, he did not want to predict any kind of big victory. He was saying, hey, let me look at the numbers, let me wait till these returns come in, and I'll get back to you. But no doubt about it, if you were, as you were just saying a few moments ago, if you were to predict 6 months ago when Donald Trump rode that escalator down in the Trump Tower in New York City that he was going to win the New Hampshire primary, there were a few people that were going to believe you. The rhetoric that we've heard from the candidate throughout this campaign, which has been much maligned inside the media, Donald Trump has not dispensed with that rhetoric one bit. As a matter of fact, earlier this evening at one polling place here in Manchester, he once again said, we're going to build that wall on the Mexican border. So Donald Trump is going to stick to his guns. He is going to be feeling very confident going into these next states. And I can tell you from talking to people inside the Trump campaign, they feel like this campaign is built to last, that he can continue to do this strategy that we've seen all along. He can go from state to state, hold these big rallies, bring in all kinds of new Republican voters, disaffected Democrats. You can hear them chanting Trump, Trump, Trump behind me, and that this strategy will continue to work contest after contest after contest. And after tonight, this is going to be a very difficult candidacy to stop at this point, Jake and Dana.
All right, Jim Acosta at Trump headquarters in Manchester, New Hampshire. The other campaign headquarters going bananas this evening is that of Senator Bernie Sanders in Concord, New Hampshire, where we find our own Brianna Keeler. Brianna, the mood there must be just jubilation.
Oh, definitely, Jake. We heard them as soon as the projection came out. They were watching CNN, and people here just went crazy, yelling, Bernie, Bernie, Bernie. And actually, all of this happening before a lot of people were even able to get into this event here at Concord High School, I should say. But this is what all of these supporters of Bernie Sanders were expecting. And this has been fulfilled for them. And now what they're really looking forward to is, of course, the candidate coming out and giving his speech. We do understand that that is going to happen sooner than later now with these projections out there. But this was something obviously so important for Bernie Sanders after his narrow loss in Iowa. He certainly felt like his message about a rigged economy was resonating here in New Hampshire, and that's what we really saw yesterday during his series of events. Today, he really took it easy, clearly confident that he was going to cruise to a win here in the Granite State, and we'll be awaiting him here at Concord High School, guys.
All right, Brianna Keeler at Sanders headquarters in Concord, New Hampshire. It didn't take long for CNN to project that Sanders won the event, and in fact, the concession was already at the ready by the Clinton campaign headquarters. Jeff Zeleny is traveling with the Clinton campaign and joins us now, I believe, by phone. Jeff, what is the Clinton campaign saying?
Well, Jake, the Clinton campaign is saying at this hour that they do intend to concede. In fact, they have and are conceding this election. The Clintons, Bill and Hillary Clinton, are at their hotel in Manchester. They will be making their way just outside of Manchester to the campus of the University of Southern New Hampshire, where they will concede this election. Jake, quite frankly, they're trying to spin this loss as just another contest. But, of course, we know it is so much more than that. This is New Hampshire, the state that she won 8 years ago, that delivered Bill Clinton to the White House in 1992. They're putting out a memo tonight calling it the way forward. Campaign manager Rubio is putting out this memo saying, you know, the rest is yet to come, and they're saying that this nomination will be won in March. And they lay out in very detailed strategy how they can win this nomination in March because it's a delegate fight. And they are right in saying that some 56% of the delegates will be awarded in March. But this is a moral blow to their campaign. This is a reset for their campaign. It is hard to overestimate the changes and just the structural decisions that will be made from here going forward. But they are getting out in front of this, and they will be conceding tonight as soon as the Clintons get here, as soon as all their supporters get into this arena tonight.
And Jeff, you know, we have, of course, heard all of the spin, all of the expectations in the days and weeks leading up to this that, of course, this is going to happen because it's Bernie Sanders, practically his home turf because he's from the state next door. But as you said, there's a lot in politics to be said about kind of a moral or psychological blow. But beyond that, just looking forward after this, Bernie Sanders has a lot of money and a lot of staying power and enthusiasm behind him to make this a long-haul competition. Doesn't he?
He does, no doubt about it. I don't know if you guys
can set up here, but I'll continue talking on about the phone. He does have a lot of money behind him, no question at all, and that is the thing that frustrates this Clinton campaign more than anything at all, that they're able to raise money, really unprecedented measures organically over the internet, more than Barack Obama could have done 8 years ago, to put it into some perspective for you. So that's why this campaign will be a long fight, really until the convention here now. That's what this loss tonight ensures. This will be a fight until at least the spring or the convention.
All right, Jeff Zeleny traveling with the Clinton campaign. A rough night for the campaign, but as they rightly point out, this is going to be a long, long campaign, and one night of bad news does not end the campaign. And now, of course, the big challenge for Bernie Sanders to turn his campaign even more into a credible national operation. Let's bring in CNN's Mark Preston for that. How are they going to do it? Because, as you know, Clinton so far has had commanding leads among especially minority voters in states such as South Carolina and Nevada, which are the next two up.
Well, what's going on right now, Jake, is they're no longer looking at this as a singular geographical contest. We had Iowa, we had New Hampshire. There's a lot of talk about us just going straight to South Carolina, then Nevada. Now they're opening it all up. They see this as a national campaign. They're looking at states such as Colorado, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Oklahoma. They're putting ad dollars into these states. They're also noting that in March, a majority of the caucuses happen during this time period, over these 30 days. Now, these caucuses are largely driven by the grassroots, the enthusiasm, and this is the Bernie Sanders type of support. They also note that going into Michigan on March 8th, to expect to see the compare and contrast on trade, TPP and NAFTA. They are going to hit Hillary Clinton hard on that. As we know, Hillary Clinton back in the fall decided to come out against TPP, even though during her time,
the Pacific trade deal,
the Trans-Pacific trade deal, during her time in the Obama administration, she was supportive of it. So yes, 50-state campaign. They think they're coming out of this tonight, Jake. They're going to get more money to fuel this campaign, and they're going to try to open it up.
An exciting night in politics. Wolf, let's go back to you in the CNN Election Center.
Very exciting indeed, Jake. Once again, CNN's projections that Bernie Sanders wins on the Democratic side, and on the Republican side, Donald Trump is the winner. But look at this. There's a major battle for second place among the Republicans in New Hampshire right now between Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, John Kasich, and Marco Rubio. Second place will be very, very important. Let's take a look at the actual votes that have come in right now, with 7% of the precincts reporting. Donald Trump still way ahead with 35%. But look at this battle for second place. John Kasich, the Ohio governor, 16%. Jeb Bush, 12%. Ted Cruz, 11%. Marco Rubio, 10%. Chris Christie, not that all that far behind, at 8% right there. So this is a huge battle that is underway right now for second place on the Republican side. I want to go over to John King because he's studying all these numbers. The numbers are coming in, real numbers, the exit poll numbers, the projections have been made about the winners, but this battle for second place will be significant in New Hampshire.
A huge battle for the Republican race going forward. We know Donald Trump's going on. We know Ted Cruz is going on. The question is of the center-right candidates, Rubio, Bush, Kasich, Christie, Fiorina. How many of them survived tonight to go on to South Carolina and beyond? You've mentioned the results, 7% so far. Donald Trump at 35%. Governor Kasich coming in second right now at 16%. But then Governor Bush at 12%. I just left the state for a minute. Let's come back to New Hampshire. Governor Bush at 12%. Cruz at 11%. Rubio at 10%. Christie at 8%, Fiorina at 4%. So, Wolf, only 7% in. A lot of movement still potentially to happen here. So what are you looking for on the map as you look it out? Number one, the Republican race will be decided down here. Trump is going to win. We know that. But down here in these suburbs, especially these suburbs below Manchester, this is where close Republican races in New Hampshire are won. So what are we going to look for? We're going to watch this as we go through the night. At the moment, Donald Trump is winning Manchester. Look how quick the count's coming in Manchester. Let me bring this back down so you can see it. Donald Trump is winning Manchester. We expect him, since he's winning statewide, to win most of these cities and towns. So the question is, where there are a lot of votes. In Manchester, John Kasich running second, but Jeb Bush pretty close behind. So let's watch the rest of the count there. And then we're just going to have to follow this around throughout the night. Tiny county here. Again, Kasich is second. Pull out and come over here up to Concord, which is another big city by New Hampshire standards. Again, you have Trump at 30, Kasich second, and then Bush. So Kasich's running a strong second now in most of the population centers. I just want to check over here on the seacoast, Portsmouth, another decent population chunk for New Hampshire. And again, Trump just around 30 here, Kasich second. So we'll watch this play out throughout the night. Who comes in behind Trump in the big population centers, and then in those big suburbs just here south of Manchester, where we've talked to our correspondents, Merrimack, Hudson, Bedford, right down in here. That's where, as we look into these little towns filling in down here, down on the Massachusetts border, that will determine second place, and then how close second, third, and fourth are, which will say a lot about how many candidates go forward.
All right, stand by, John. I want to go to Sunlen Srifati. She's over at Cruz campaign headquarters. You've got news. Sunlen, what are you learning?
That's right, Wolf. Well, the Cruz campaign right now is watching Marco Rubio's results very closely. Conversations with many of the Cruz advisors that are watching results with the candidates right now reveal that they're looking at how well Rubio does. They have always seen New Hampshire as a chance to take down Rubio, really blunt his momentum going forward. And in conversations with Cruz advisors, they see some signs that this might be happening tonight. Where the chips fall, they will really make their message going forward. They will start to cast Marco Rubio as weak, someone who cannot coalesce the establishment wing of the party. This is their consolation prize if indeed Marco Rubio comes out poorly tonight, that they will take to the next state, South Carolina, going forward. Wolf?
All right, Sunlen, thanks very much. David Chalian is with me right now. David, you're looking at these numbers, how this happened, the projections. We know the winners, Trump and Sanders, but what happened?
Well, let's look at how Trump won New Hampshire tonight. This is a really angry electorate, okay? 46% of Republicans say they're betrayed by the GOP. Donald Trump won those voters going away. 32% for Trump, 16% for Cruz, Kasich at 15%, Rubio at 10%. How about outsider versus insider? 48% 60% of Republicans want an outsider. Trump wins them going away. 57% to Cruz's 12%, Fiorina 9%, and Kasich at 6%. And those critical independents. Take a look at this. They made up about 35% of the electorate, and once again, Donald Trump wins them. 36% for Trump, 17% for Kasich, 13% for Rubio, and Bush at 11%. So, those Republicans who feel betrayed by their own party, who are looking for an outsider, those independent voters, they have fueled Trump's victory in New Hampshire, Wolf.
People made up their minds relatively late in the game, right? Or were they going in relatively early?
On the Republican side, we saw a little more of late deciders than we did on the Democratic side. The Democratic side was a little more...
And who did they break for?
And they went for Donald Trump, I do believe.
On the Republican side, and Bernie Sanders obviously doing very well on the Democratic side.
Right.
This is, when you think about it, as everybody says, a major, major win for Donald Trump and for Bernie Sanders. Two outsiders, non-establishment candidates. Anderson, this is a moment both of these candidates clearly have been waiting for. They will relish it. We're anticipating they will be delivering victory speeches relatively soon.
No doubt about it, and concession speeches from Hillary Clinton. And, of course, the battle, though, for second place and third place on the Republican side is a fascinating one to watch, and the numbers right now obviously too close to call.
Yeah, it's really too close to call. It is a muddle. I think the big question everybody is asking tonight is this question of Marco Rubio, and can he distinguish himself tonight?
We did hear in the exit polls that the debates mattered.
Yeah. 67% say that the debate the recent debate was important. Voters in New Hampshire watched these debates, and even in talking to a source in the Rubio campaign, he admitted to me, look, we didn't do well, but they believe that he could recover. And we don't know what that's going to mean yet this evening.
And to see Bush's name up in the top, I mean, right now in third place, again, we should caution only 9% of the votes in, but with 12%, very close, ahead of Rubio, ahead of...
And there's this battle between Rubio and Bush, right? I mean, this is sort of
I think the Bush team had a goal tonight. It was to finish ahead of Marco Rubio.
Exactly.
Yeah,
we'll see if they do that. That was it. And it is a real battle between the two of them, and it's personal.
But when you look at these numbers, Michael, I mean, moving forward, there's a lot of people who can now move forward to South Carolina. Even if, I mean, assuming obviously someone will come in second, someone will come in third, but assuming these numbers stay relatively close, the percentages stay relatively close, a lot of people can make the argument, well, I can go on to South Carolina.
Yeah, I think David made the point earlier this evening that it's now improbable that we're going to see some exodus from the race. And that's wonderful news for Donald Trump. It's exactly the scenario he needs to continue to lead at 35% of the vote.
We got to take a quick break. We'll have much more election results coming up in a moment.
All right, we have a key race alert. As you know, Donald Trump, we have projected, is the winner on the Republican side. Bernie Sanders is the winner on the Democratic side in these New Hampshire primaries. Let's take a look at the actual votes that are coming in right now, and they're beginning to come in right now. 9% of the vote is in. Trump is ahead with 34%. But look at this race for second place in New Hampshire among the Republicans right now. John Kasich, the Ohio governor, with 16%. Jeb Bush, 12%. Ted Cruz, 11%. Marco Rubio, 10%. Chris Christie at 8%. Carly Fiorina, 4%. Ben Carson, 2%. Very, very tight race for second place. Remember, 9% of the precincts reporting. On the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders, we projected, is the winner right now with 13% of the precincts in. He's almost 5,000 votes ahead of Hillary Clinton, 56% to 42% right there. Big winners tonight, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. Let's go back to John King over here at the magic wall. You're looking, first of all, at the Republican side, 9% of the numbers in. We're getting a feeling of how Trump did it.
How Trump did it, number one. And you look at that, Donald Trump never run for office before. In the second contest in New Hampshire primary, he's going to get a win, and it looks like his margin is going to be a pretty healthy win. So Donald Trump will go on to South Carolina with a bit of steam. Ted Cruz will be waiting for him there with his Iowa win. And so now the question is, who else breaks out from the establishment? Kasich running a good second right now. We'll see if it holds up. We're still shy of 10% of the vote. This gets fascinating, Wolf, when you look at this. Number one, Donald Trump's doing it because he's winning by pretty good margins. Concord here, and then you drop down to Manchester, the biggest population center. Blue-collar voters, a much bigger margin there.
83% of the vote.
83% of the, so he's winning in the center of the state, the two largest cities. He's also winning over here on the seacoast in Portsmouth. If you bring this over here, it's a closer race here. These are much more moderate voters, but with so many establishment candidates splintering the vote, Donald Trump is 28% is enough to win. We'll see what the final number holds up. But 28, 30% is enough to win in a lot of the cities and towns, which is why this is the conversation happening in Republican circles right now. Governor Kasich, if he stays right there, you can bet bottom dollar he's going on. Governor Bush has needed New Hampshire to do something to revive what has been the most struggling of the Republican establishment campaigns. If he can stay there, you know he goes on. This is when you start looking at it. Then Ted Cruz is right now running fourth. Marco Rubio, fifth, just cracking 10% again. We got a long way to go, and I'll show you some important places in a minute. And Chris Christie at 8%. There are conversations in the Christie campaign tonight. If he stays in single digits and if he stays down here at the bottom of the pack, he could be gone from the race very quickly because he bet it all on New Hampshire. As you go, the campaign now goes south. Not hospitable territory for the New Jersey governor unless he can move up in these final moments. And then Carly Fiorina and Ben Carson bottoming out the pack. But if you add this up, Fiorina, Christie, Rubio, Bush, and Kasich, you get above 50%. You're in a 51, 52% range, which would be enough to beat Donald Trump. That's the conversation among the establishment, but New Hampshire won't give us one. So what are we going to look for as the battle for second place plays out? Right down here. This is where, if you're in New Hampshire and you go to a Republican event, you find the Republican candidates in places like Amherst, in places like Bedford, in places like Merrimack, and in places all along the Massachusetts border down here where you have Nashua City here, Hudson over here, where Chris Christie spent a lot of time, the other Republican candidates as well. As these fill in down here, Wolf, I want to go back in time. It's Mitt Romney country, right? The coral color is Ron Paul. This is Mitt Romney country, establishment Republican votes. Donald Trump is winning those places right now because of the splintering of the establishment. Second place in the Republican race will be decided down here. And third place, third and fourth, could be hugely significant because one of the debates in the establishment is going to be, if you're under Ted Cruz, how much strength do you have going forward? Now, Rubio, if he stays here, will make the case, I came in third in Iowa. That makes me viable. But that will be the conversation. This is not Ted Cruz's best state. He won Iowa. If you're below him in New Hampshire, you're going to face some pressure.
We know Trump is the winner, but why is second place in New Hampshire so important?
Well, in part because the big debate among Republicans is who is the establishment, the John McCain, the Mitt Romney, who is the establishment Republican alternative to Ted Cruz, your evangelical and Tea Party candidate, and Donald Trump, who's the outsider, disruptor, the most disruptive force in American politics. Who is that candidate? Because I just pull out for a minute. When we go south, Wolf, the map is going to go south pretty soon, and Ted Cruz is going to be very happy about that. Because remember, this is evangelicals. All right? Ted Cruz just had a big win out here in Iowa. You see there's a good chunk of evangelicals. You look up here in New Hampshire, not many evangelicals. This is where we go now. The month of March is fought down here. The darker the area, the more evangelicals. Ted Cruz is in a good position. Donald Trump benefits from the crowded field right now. It's Ted Cruz who could benefit from the crowded field as we head south. So the conversation among Republican establishment figures will be shrink the field as fast as possible. But if you come back to the New Hampshire results, it's going to be very hard to get some of these guys out because they're going to think, I want to stay a little longer. That will be the fascinating conversation as we get to second and third. You see Governor Bush winning a county here. If this holds up, you know he's staying, you know he's going to stay, and you know he's going to stay. So the choice of who's the mainstream establishment alternative to Trump and Cruz, New Hampshire's not going to settle that fight.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge battle underway now for second and third place. I want to go back to Jake and Dana as we're watching what's unfolding. This battle for second place is really, really significant.
It is indeed, and obviously Donald Trump gets the W for the night, and what an amazing victory it is for him. But let us pick up where John and Wolf were just leaving off, talking about that race to be the establishment candidate between Jeb Bush, Chris Christie, John Kasich, and Marco Rubio. We thought we were going to get clarity tonight. I think it's getting more muddled. Who do you think has the most at stake of those four tonight?
Well, I actually think all of them have a lot at stake, but for John Kasich especially, if he's been saying if he gets smoked here, he's leaving. But the reality is, if he doesn't do maybe two or three, second or third place, it's going to be very hard for him to continue. He's going to South Carolina no matter what, but he is pretty much out of gas, meaning money, and they need to put more gas in the tank. If he does well, and second place for this establishment lane is well, he'll get more money. And they do have, even though not a lot of people are talking about it, they do have a plan. I talked to a senior advisor earlier today to continue and get through. They don't expect to do well in South Carolina, but to get through to the dates where the Midwest is really key, because he's governor of Ohio, March 15th. If he can stay in the race until March 15th, he thinks that he's got a lot. The other person I think we really have to talk about is Marco Rubio, because
He had momentum coming out of Iowa.
You remember.
Yeah.
I went to Marco Rubio events the day after Iowa here in New Hampshire, and so many people came to see him because they said they wanted to take a second look because they wanted to pick a winner. And it just is a reminder to us how an instant and a moment that is memorable for somebody, good and bad, can change the way things help.
You're specifically referring to some of his debate moments when Chris Christie went after him and stuck him with a shiv.
That's right. And Rubio's people admit it has been a very, very tough 72 hours.
It's been brutal for him, but what a turnaround, let's say, for former Florida Governor Jeb Bush. His political obituary has been written several times. I interviewed him earlier today, and he was talking about how frustrating it is and how you have to be tough to keep working through it. Athena Jones, CNN reporter Athena Jones, is at Jeb Bush headquarters in Manchester. And Athena, he had been talking about momentum and feeling the crowds and energy, and the final polls aren't in yet, but it looks like he might have a good night tonight.
It certainly does, Jake. The fact that this is such a close race for second, third place. You know, the Bush campaign has said all along they expected Trump to win, but they are heartened by the fact that they're seeing, about 1,200 or so votes separating Bush from John Kasich. I spoke with a campaign official not long ago, and he remarked on this close race and called it something of a win already. He said, even by being close, we have won by coming a long way in 30 days. We're back in the conversation. We're actually much better positioned than some of the other candidates. One of those other candidates is actually John Kasich. You just heard Dana talking about how he's running out of gas and may struggle in South Carolina. They say that Governor Bush has a lot of money and resources to be able to compete in the next state. So these numbers right now are confirming what I've been hearing from Bush campaign officials, that they've been seeing momentum on his side and a surge for their candidate. Jake?
All right, Athena Jones at Bush campaign headquarters in Manchester. Now let's go to Concord, New Hampshire, the capital of the state, where we find Sarah Murray at John Kasich's campaign headquarters. And Sarah, when I spoke with the governor earlier today, he was kind of wistful. Let's see what happens. Now it's up to the voters. It looks like maybe they were listening to him.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jake. And as you guys were just pointing out, there was so much at stake for John Kasich tonight, and there still is in deciding whether to keep going. But right now, his campaign is feeling confident, and they are planning ahead. A senior Kasich staffer tells me they are planning on deploying staff to between 8 and 9 of the upcoming states. They're sending about 200 staffers and volunteers to South Carolina, not because they think they can win there necessarily, but they want to play hard. And they're looking ahead to Nevada as a potential firewall, a state they could win that could keep their momentum going until you get to these states that vote March 1st, March 8th, March 15th. Places like Virginia, places like Michigan, the neighbor to Ohio, that could be much more favorable to John Kasich. So that's the strategy for them looking ahead. They're certainly not in the same frame of mind they were just a couple days ago, talking about what happens if they get smoked in New Hampshire. Totally different mindset for them here tonight. Jake?
All right, Sarah Murray at Kasich campaign headquarters in Concord, New Hampshire. And Dana, when you look at the exit polls and you see how much of the independent vote Donald Trump took away from John Kasich, and his campaign message was steered right at independents.
Because so many of those independents clearly were much more focused on getting somebody outside of politics, and there's nobody more like that in this race than Donald Trump. One quick addition to what Sarah Murray was just saying, I was just texting with somebody from the Kasich campaign who insists that they have money, but I guess the key is, if you have a strong showing, second place in New Hampshire, a lot more money is going to roll in to help them with their long-term strategy.
That's the hope. Nothing succeeds like success. Let's go back to campaign headquarters and Wolf Blitzer and Anderson Cooper.
Jake, Dana, thanks very much. Just to give you a sense of how important placing is in New Hampshire in first and second, every GOP nominee, the person who's actually gone on to get the nomination for the GOP since 1944, has either come in first or in second place in New Hampshire. So obviously that battle for second, just historically, is an important one. A lot of people in contention for it. Let's talk about it with our political commentators. Ben, you're not particularly surprised to see Bush doing pretty well. You've been watching him.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting because I wrote him off. Everybody wrote him off. He was almost like a laughing stock, almost like a joke. It's very hard in politics to come back once you're a punchline. But I watched this guy, and in these town halls where he has a chance to stand up, he seems to have come into himself. It's almost like a revenge of the nerd, where he's like, you know what, I'm not going to take this, and I'm going to stand. I am somebody. And it's almost inspiring to see him climb his way back up.
I've been saying for months that it would be really silly for Jeb Bush to listen to all of the noise and get out early. He still has so much going for him. He's still got a ton of money. He's still got a ton of infrastructure. He's rising in the polls in South Carolina.
He's gotten better in the debates also.
He had a great debate performance the other night. He's rising in South Carolina, which is a politically moderate state for Republicans. He has a good opportunity there. Jeb Bush, I think, has always known that the noise and chaos of the Republican Party was going to calm down, and if he can just hang on, and mind you, white knuckle hanging on, but if he could just hang on, long enough, he could be the last establishment guy standing. I don't know if he will be, but it's like ludicrous to have suggested he needed to get out.
At those who are in contention for second place, and then you think about South Carolina, who's best positioned as the potential second place person for South Carolina? Obviously, Donald Trump has had some very big rallies there. He seems to be doing very well there. But in terms of Bush, in terms of Kasich, in terms of Christie, in terms of Rubio and Cruz.
Cruz.
Yeah.
Cruz. I mean, it's a conservative
strong
state.
Evangelical support.
Right, exactly. This is Ted Cruz's kind of place. I don't think it candidly it's the kind of place for a lot of these other folks. Now, there may be an exception with Jeb Bush. I mean, his brother did win the South Carolina primary.
Yeah.
So there may be...
And there's talk about his brother actually campaigning for him in South Carolina, which would be the first time he's
They like the Bushes in South Carolina. It was always his plan to go through to South Carolina.
And he has Lindsey Graham.
To Van's point.
And he's got Lindsey Graham.
Slow and steady approach.
Steady. He's been an adult in this. He's not out,
He's been handing out little turtles to people. No, he has been.
I mean, he's not been some, outlandish attack, kind of person. He's been a governor. He knows what it takes to govern. And, you have to get through the campaign part first to be able to govern, but he's a governor.
And yet, in the exit polls, I mean, among GOP voters, feel betrayed by the GOP. They, you can argue that Bush is part of that establishment.
But this is what's so remarkable. I was just looking at some of these early exit polls. For those Republicans who feel betrayed by the Republican Party, Trump is winning both yes and no. Okay, he is winning people who say, no, I don't feel betrayed by the Republican. And yes, I do.
Yeah.
No one else is
so
even
he's
coming
kind
up.
of the thing, right?
So, amazing.
I mean, let's look at this whole race. I mean, just tonight, what we've seen, you have these two candidates who rail against Wall Street, who hate trade deals, who consider Washington politics and campaign finance completely corrupt, right? So why wouldn't Trump be winning on both sides, as you were saying, because that is a majority view, among the electorate, among Democrats and among Republicans.
As to just on that, as the point on Bush, because I agree that I think he's come into his own in the last month, giving out turtles and coming out of his shell, as it were. And I think the reason for that is because he finally found a purpose in this race, and that purpose was to expose Donald Trump.
Right.
He felt Donald Trump was making a mockery of a system of governance that he relishes, that he was raised in, that he was raised to believe in, and he felt he needed to stand up for serious governance, and he found a market for that in New Hampshire, apparently enough to move on.
And his kind of first purpose, it seemed to be, was to expose Marco Rubio. He didn't do it well in that first debate, but in that last debate, I mean, he was piling on with Chris Christie, trying to expose Marco Rubio is not quite ready for prime time. His ads in The Right to Rise, the Super PAC ads, have all been about Marco Rubio.
Although, if he moves on, if Bush moves on, Chris Christie will go down in history as one of the great blocking backs in the history of Republican
does he stay on just to play that role? I mean, he looked like he was having so much fun in that last debate. Does he hang on just to play that role?
Anderson, can I make the observation that thus far the night is shaping up precisely the way that one Michael Bloomberg hoped that it would? Bernie Sanders with potentially a very big victory for the Ds, Donald Trump winning for the Rs, and an appetite in the race nonetheless for some independent thinking in John Kasich. If I'm Bloomberg and I'm looking at this, I'm saying, there just might be an avenue for me, and I can't live with either of these front runners.
And he's going to make it, and he apparently has to make a decision by early March whether or not he actually is going to.
Well, one of the things so critical. March becomes so critical in this process. By the end of March, more than 56% of the delegates will have been awarded through the voting process. March is that time, and as we saw, if we're talking about Jeb Bush or one of the other Republican candidates coming through the South, You're going to see the same thing on the Democratic side, but also plays to a strength.
And Mark Preston reporting earlier in the broadcast that Sanders' campaign today spent some time focusing on those later states. You know, that it's not just for them about Iowa, about New Hampshire anymore.
The thing about the Sanders campaign is that they have an endless supply of money. It's unbelievable the amount of, I just know like normal, regular people who've never given money to anybody or anything. I gave $20 to Bernie. He's tapped into something, and he's shown that you don't have to take the big bucks. You can argue about whether that's a smear or not, but he's shown you don't have to take the big bucks. So what that means is he gets a chance to just keep going forward. And I'm going to tell you, the pain that you feel in the Republican Party and the pain you feel with the independents and the pain you feel with the Democrats has to find an expression. It has to. And right now the establishment has not found a way to signal, I hear you. Instead, it's lecturing people, saying you should be with us even when people are not there yet.
Two striking things here. One is, Donald, and looking at these exit polls, is Trump's appeal across all areas. I mean, women, all ages, education, income, party ID, ideology, marital status. Which leads to the other point here, that Donald Trump, who's been, criticized just the other night for saying something, he is the message. He is today's great communicator, as it were, by being himself, and telling these folks, hey, you're not a bunch of racist, bigoted xenophobics. You're hardworking Americans. I hear you. The establishment doesn't hear you, and we're going to carry this to victory.
Let's go back to Wolf. Kind of more votes.
All right, Anderson, we have another key race alert. Let's show our viewers right now. Donald Trump, we projected, is the winner. Right now, 12% of the precincts reporting. He's got 34%. But look at this battle for second place among the Republican presidential candidates. John Kasich, the Ohio governor, he's at 16%. Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz are at 12%. Marco Rubio, 10%. Chris Christie, the New Jersey governor, 8%. So there's a huge battle underway right now. John Kasich doing well on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders, we projected, is the winner. 15% of the precincts reporting right now. He got an amazing 58% in New Hampshire, and Hillary Clinton's 40%. Bernie Sanders is the winner of the Democratic primary in New Hampshire. John King, let's talk a little bit about how these winners did it. But this battle for second place is really critical on the Republican side.
Right, just a quick look at the Democratic map as it starts to fill in. Well, 15% of the vote. That's so far one lonely town up here for Hillary Clinton. The rest of it looks like, we'll see as the rest of it fills in, but at the moment it's shaping up like a shellacking on the Democratic side. Let's go over to the Republican race. Donald Trump still in the lead. Just 12% of the vote counted, so we've got a lot more to count. But that's been a consistent lead for Donald Trump. That's why we're so safe in calling this race. You see, just updated a little bit more. Kasich in second. Ted Cruz just moved into third place as we count the votes right now, but very, very close. Jeb Bush right behind him. What's that, 12 votes right behind him there, also at 12%. Then you've got Rubio and Chris Christie. Rubio at 10, Chris Christie at 8. Fiorina and Carson rounding it out. How is this happening? As Jeff Lord just noted, look at Donald Trump. He's winning tiny counties up here near the Canadian border. These are rural counties. If you go back in time, these are Ron Paul counties. These are libertarian voters who were for Ron Paul. Donald Trump is winning those counties. Let's come back, stretch out the map. You come down here. These are mainline establishment Republicans in Concord, the capital city of the state where you have Republicans. It's close, but Donald Trump is winning. You come over to the seacoast here, more moderates, even liberal Republicans. Again, Donald Trump is winning. He's winning across the spectrum. Now, New Hampshire's a predominantly white state, but you do have rural areas and you have suburban areas and some small urban areas. Donald Trump is winning in all of them because of the fractured establishment field. Now, the race for second place, where is that playing out? You see, this is Jeb Bush. He's only winning one town so far, and it's a tiny one. But Jeb Bush is on the map with 31% here as he tries to stay in the top three. Now he's fallen into fourth, but he's right behind. And John Kasich, he's won in the votes tonight. There's some northern counties that were voted at midnight last night. He's won one here, but here's the key to this race right now.
Stand by for a moment. I want our viewers to know we're waiting for victory statements, victory speeches we're going to be hearing from Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. Let's take a quick break. Lots more coming up. Stay with us. A very impressive win for Donald Trump. We have projected he is the winner of the Republican primary in New Hampshire. Take a look at this. Trump headquarters. They're standing by. They're going to be really excited once he walks in there and delivers his victory speech. This is going to be a very, very important speech for Donald Trump as he wins the New Hampshire primary. But there's a fierce battle underway right now for second place among the GOP in New Hampshire right now. Donald Trump is the winner, but there are several candidates who are fighting for second place, including Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, John Kasich, Marco Rubio. We'll see where they go. The voting is coming in as we speak right now. I want to go over to David Challey and the big winners, of course, and you got to give him a lot of credit. Donald Trump, who would have thought only a few months ago he'd be the winner of the New Hampshire primary? Who would have thought Bernie Sanders a few months ago would be the winner of the Democratic primary? You're looking closely at how these two so-called non-establishment candidates managed to do it.
Both of those candidates, by the way, have said they themselves are surprised at how well they were doing in this process. So you're right. Nobody expected
and
this.
they didn't just win. They are winning by impressive margins.
Solid victories.
Yeah.
No doubt about that, Wolf. You asked a little bit earlier about late deciders versus those people that decided before the last few days. We went into a deeper dive here. I want you to take a look at this because there's a big difference. Among late deciders, you see that John Kasich and Donald Trump basically split those. 21% for Kasich, 20% for Trump, 14% for Rubio, 13% for Cruz. That's about 47% of the electorate. Nearly half the electorate decided late. Those that decided earlier than the last few days, 52% are Republicans. Trump won them going away, 42%. Cruz, 13%. Rubio, 12%. Kasich, 11%. Donald Trump's support, Wolf, was very solid early on. He was holding on to them. What this shows that those that were deciding in the last few days, this is the Kasich surge at the end. This is what we see him leading in that battle for second place that you discussed.
I mean, you got to think about this. Donald Trump, once again, I can't overestimate how important this is for Donald Trump to emerge. Second place, barely in Iowa, but down first place in New Hampshire, moving forward to South Carolina, Nevada, and the so-called SEC states. Those are coming up not very far down. Jake, you're watching out there in Manchester. We're standing by. I want to remind our viewers, speeches from Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders. They're the two big winners tonight.
That's right, and CNN has just learned that Hillary Clinton has telephoned Senator Bernie Sanders to concede the race and offer her congratulations. We do expect that she will any minute now come to the stage and address her supporters. As you know, Wolf, New Hampshire, a big state for the Clintons historically. Hillary Clinton staged her comeback in 2008 in the state, winning the primary against then-Senator Obama. Bill Clinton came in second here after a tumultuous start to his presidential campaign in 1992. So this is it's a rough time for the Clinton family and the Clinton machine. Let's go to Jeff Zeleny, who is traveling with the Clinton campaign. Jeff, what are you hearing from campaign officials?
Well, Jake, I can tell you she is en route here to deliver a speech, but a very different kind of speech than she, of course, wanted to give. Now, there are signs of life here at this rally. You can probably see behind me. That was not the case a few moments ago. They turned on some pretty loud music and are getting the crowd fired up. But, Jake, beyond this loud music, there is deep worry in the hearts and minds of Clinton supporters. I talked to one senior Clinton supporter from here in New Hampshire who said he believes that their message was muddled. He believes that she does not have as succinct of a message as Bernie Sanders. And that is one of the reasons that they are actively talking about a bit of a campaign shakeup and adjustment here. They underestimated Bernie Sanders. They underestimated how much he would resonate with the populist strain in the party right now, and they are going to try and retool her message. There are no televisions at this rally, Jake, and that is one thing that is very different from most campaign rallies. That is one sign that they knew tonight would be a difficult one. But there are teleprompters. The speech that Secretary Clinton is going to give tonight in just a few minutes is going to be, I'm told, about the way forward, how she can and will still win this nomination in March once this goes out to a broader, diverse section of this Democratic Party. But the Bernie Sanders campaign is very confident, and they know that they are in the right place here. So the Clintons will have to readjust, and they will give this speech, and then she'll go back to New York tonight. She will not spend another night in New Hampshire. Jake?
All right, let's go to Sanders headquarters in Concord, New Hampshire, where we find Brianna Keeler. Brianna, what's going on?
Well, you can tell that scene that Jeff just just described is the polar opposite of what you're seeing here. Sanders, actually, they're watching some video of Bernie Sanders shooting hoops, because we understand, if you can believe it, that's actually what he's doing right now. This is Concord High School. We're in a gymnasium, and there's a basketball court adjacent to where we are, where Bernie Sanders is killing time. With his kids, with his grandkids playing basketball. We were actually told by a campaign aide that he got here about 10 minutes to 8, and we're trying to figure out exactly when he got that call from Secretary Clinton, but he's been killing time. He wants to come out at 9 p.m., really to take advantage of the top of the hour. This is something that he is relishing. This may be the most crucial victory for Bernie Sanders. And certainly, as you know, Jake, he has an uphill battle ahead of him as he pushes towards South Carolina and Nevada. But he's going to make the case tonight in this speech. And we understand he only wrote one. He didn't even write that just-in-case concession speech. He's going to make the case that this goes beyond New Hampshire, that his supporters are going to come out for him in states, not just Nevada, not just South Carolina, but those March 1st primary states as well. And he's going to say this is really just the beginning.
All right, Breonna Keeler at a Jubilant Sanders campaign headquarters in Concord, New Hampshire. Let's go to Jim Acosta, who's at Trump headquarters. Trump, obviously, the other big story of the night, his big victory, not surprising in this state. And yet, if you take a step back from the politics of the last 6 to 9 months and realize that Donald Trump has just won the New Hampshire primary, it is a remarkable thing to behold. Jim, what's going on where you are?
That's right. I think for tonight, Donald Trump has the outsider lane all to himself. What we're seeing right now inside this auditorium, Jake, is a very excited crowd. And I can tell you that just the last 30 minutes or so, campaign officials here at this Trump election party have locked the doors. The doors are locked. Nobody else can get in. That includes the media. That's because there are so many people crammed inside of this building. The fire marshal and the authorities are concerned about letting more people inside. So that just goes to show you just how excited people are here. We saw hundreds of people lined up for hours outside of this tiny ballroom here in Manchester, New Hampshire. And what we're also hearing from officials here inside the Trump campaign is that they're trying to determine just how soon to get the candidate out here. Jake and Dan, as you know, from watching all these elections, this is that part of the night when the campaigns start to talk to one another about who's going to go first, who's going to go second, when do you guys want to go, when do we want to go. And the Trump campaign had expected that he would be coming out at around 9:30 tonight. That was perhaps because they were anticipating this process taking a little longer in terms of declaring a winner. This happened so soon. Now they're trying to determine whether or not to put the candidate, whether to put Mr. Trump out sooner. And so that's what we're waiting for at this point. A lot of excited people in this room. So many people that they've locked the doors to this election headquarters party here in Manchester, Jake and Dana.
Not the first time that Donald Trump has drawn a capacity crowd during this campaign season. Let us go back to campaign headquarters in Washington, D.C., and Wolf Blitzer. Wolf.
All right, Jake, thanks very much. Here's our CNN key race alert right now. On the Republican side, Donald Trump is the winner. He's building that lead impressively, 35%. He's 100 votes ahead of John Kasich, the Ohio governor. He's got 16%. Look at this battle for second and third place underway right now. Ted Cruz just changed at 12%. Jeb Bush, 11%. Marco Rubio, 10%. Chris Christie, 7%. Carly Fiorina and Ben Carson, they're down below. Take a look at the Democratic side. Bernie Sanders, the independent senator from neighboring Vermont, 58%. He's about almost 10,000 votes ahead of Hillary Clinton at only 40%. A big, big win for Bernie Sanders. A big, big win for Donald Trump. Actually, I want to go back to Anderson right now. Anderson, you're getting more information, and you're also getting expert analysis.
Yeah, that's right. David Axelrod, Gloria Borger, they're taking a deep dive on the numbers, both for Donald Trump and for Hillary Clinton, and what bodes for her future and for the future of Donald Trump as well. But I should say, all night long, we've been hearing people on camera saying, who among political commentators thought this night was possible to have Donald Trump winning. I got to point to Jeffrey Lord, who... the get-go. Do you want to do a victory lap, Lord? Because you have been saying from the get-go that Donald Trump can go all the way.
I have indeed. I mean, I spent time with him. I talked to him. I mean, you try when you're in politics to listen to people, to understand what they're saying. And, I mean, here's a guy, a billionaire, and he's getting votes from people who are making under $50,000 a year. He knows how to communicate. He's very good at it. Contrary to all the press, he's a very nice guy, a very charming guy. He just means what he says. He wants this country to have immigration, but, you know, I mean, all the rest, but there's a way to do it and to do it the right way. That's the message here, and he doesn't take any, if I may say in front of all my media friends, he stands up to the media, which I think people... Well, I know, you may find this surprising.
Stands up to and embraces at the same time.
Exactly.
It's a very interesting...
There's never an interview he won't do.
Right, or uses. I mean, there's no candidate who has been so available to so many different types of media.
Yes. Let's be honest, there's a symbiotic relationship between the media and Donald Trump, and he's played it like a Stradivarius. I must say, he delivers his message a little less genteelly than Jeffrey does over there. In this poll, in this exit poll, people who say they wanted someone who tells it like it is, or this equality, 62% of those the tell it like it is voters chose Donald Trump. He just blew everybody.
He blew everybody
away
on everything.
That is the core of his appeal. Yeah, but this one is really noteworthy. Can bring change as the other, and those two are the two most important qualities for a majority of the
But he
voters.
continues to have the highest net. First of all props to Jeffrey, because you've been so right and I've been so wrong about this guy. But let me quadruple down, because he has the highest net negatives among even Republicans. Yes, he is winning the New Hampshire primary, but among Republicans, he's successful only because there are so many others in the race. And in a general scenario, he is equally as unpopular. So I don't see how he can carry the ball all the way to the left.
But it's not before we inaugurate him, it's a long way. It's a long way to November, and actually New Hampshire being, you know, blue collar and not evangelical is good territory for Trump. The rest of the map might be a little more difficult. But as much as you've been listening to people, Jeffrey, and I believe that you have, who have been talking about Trump, have you been listening to the 70% of the Republican Party that does not like Donald Trump? And those are the voters that we're all looking at. And with this many people still in the race, that is why he is capitalizing, not on a majority, a plurality.
And we should point out that at the top of the hour, we're expecting Bernie Sanders to be speaking. And before we do, I mean, you wanted to talk a little bit about Hillary Clinton and what the numbers show about...
I still think she's a... go ahead.
No, I just want to say one more thing about Trump and give him his due tonight. Honestly, give him his due. He won across the board. Of all ages. He won college-educated, non-college educated, women, all incomes. He won women. He won independent voters. And as David was pointing out on some key characteristics, I don't think he won on shares your values.
No, or among evangelicals.
Right. So anyway, now you.
But he is still just to Michael's point. He is getting a third of the vote, which we should.
I understand that, and when it's one-on-one, it might be a little different for him. But tonight, he had a very impressive victory.
If I were the Clinton campaign, I'd be looking at these exit polls with... I still think she's a solid favorite because she does have inroads into the minority communities that are going to be much more important than they are in all white states like Iowa and New Hampshire. But Bernie Sanders got 72% of the independents. He beat her among... she won people under 50,000 last time. He's beating her 2-to-1 among those voters tonight. And we heard people who earn less than $50,000 a year, white, blue-collar workers, which is a important constituency moving forward. And, you know, we heard Madeleine Albright say there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women. Well, they better make some room down there because 53% of women voted for Bernie Sanders.
That's right. You know, the people who voted for Hillary Clinton were people who valued experience and wanted to continue the policies of Barack Obama.
And yet we saw in the exit polls, there were a lot of voters on the Democratic side who said he wasn't liberal enough.
You know, even more concerning, I think, for Hillary Clinton, and this has always been the case, even pre-Bernie, she does not poll well among men. And our early exit polls show he is beating her 66% to 32% among men. So, yes, it's probably deeply disappointing to her that he is taking so many women voters away. But for the rest of the country, the rest of the election, she's got to shore up her vote among men.
And just past the top of the hour, I should say we are expecting to hear from Senator Sanders, also Donald Trump, as well as all the others.
Well, I was going to say, again, before the coronation or inauguration, we're 2 states in. New Hampshire is a very, very special place, and all due to all the folks up there. 93% white, 2% African-American, 1% Latino, and 1.3 million people. We have a lot of game to play here.
Let's go back to Jake Tapper. Jake?
Electrocardiogram?
Defibrillator.
Hey, Jake.
Well, we're back here, and obviously there's so many exciting stories coming out of tonight's election results. You have amazing, amazing victories for Donald Trump and for Bernie Sanders. You have a bad night for Hillary Clinton, a bad night for Marco Rubio, and then also this big race for second place and third place in New Hampshire, these establishment candidates trying to get back in the game, having put so much into the race. One of those, I don't know if I would say he's rising phoenix-like from the ashes, Mark Preston, but Jeb Bush certainly has had the defibrillators put on his campaign with, as of right now, a third-place finish. What would Jeb Bush's plan be, and what's he going to say tonight when he comes out and speaks to his supporters?
Well, Jake, there's no doubt about it. That debate gave a little bit of life into Jeb Bush, certainly on Saturday night, and really took a lot of air out of the balloon for his mentoree, in some ways, Marco Rubio. But tonight we should hear from him talk about his policies, saying that he's a conservative problem solver. He's also going to say the political pundits were wrong. You were wrong. I was wrong. Everybody in the media was wrong, saying this is a 3-person race. He's saying it's actually bigger than a 3-person race. He's also going to say that people need to think about who they want to have as the president. And he's going to go right after Donald Trump. And he's going to go right after him and say that he has terrible policies and he's acted as a terrible person. And people need to realize that. Now, as far as Marco Rubio goes, we expect him to make a passing reference to Marco Rubio, which in some ways is a slap in the face by not even acknowledging him too much, and that's what we expect from him to say tonight. But most importantly, heading into South Carolina, his brother, President George W. Bush, is going to be on the campaign trail. We know that he is well-liked down in South Carolina, so expect the former president to be out there for his brother.
All right. Well, he might have some harsh words for Donald Trump, Mark Preston, but of course, Donald Trump right now appears to be on the way to the biggest Republican victory in this state since John McCain beat George W. Bush in 2019 points. Wolf Blitzer, back to you in election campaign headquarters.
All right, Jake, thanks very much. Let's get a key race alert. Update our viewers what's going on. Donald Trump is building his lead. 21% of the precincts now reporting he's on more than 11,000 votes ahead of John Kasich, the Ohio governor. 34%. 34%. That's pretty amazing for Donald Trump right now. John Kasich, 15%. Look at this battle, though, for second and third place. 12, 12, and 10. Jeb Bush at 12%. Ted Cruz at 12%. They're tied right now. 6,996 for Bush, 6,996 for Ted Cruz. They are literally tied for third place right now. Marco Rubio not far behind, 6,287 with 10% of the vote. Chris Christie a little further down, only 8% of the vote. This is a huge battle for second, third, and fourth place right now in New Hampshire. Let's update you on the Democratic side. Bernie Sanders, the independent senator from Vermont, he is the winner, and he's got an impressive lead, a very impressive lead. 23% of the precincts reporting, 58% for Bernie Sanders, only 40% for Hillary Clinton. That number, 10,000 votes ahead. Very, very impressive. Once again, Bernie Sanders is going to be making a victory speech momentarily, we're told. Donald Trump is going to be making a victory speech momentarily. Of course, we will have live coverage of both of the winners. We'll also hear from some of the others as well. Let's go over to John King at the Magic Wall. This is a truly impressive feat for Donald Trump, especially when you think where he was, 6-7 months ago. A lot of people thought it was a joke, but he is by no means a joke.
And 8 days after the first loss of his political career in Iowa, Donald Trump gets the W in New Hampshire, goes on to South Carolina, where he has led in the early polls. We'll see what happens as the race moves forward. But Donald Trump has momentum. Ted Cruz thinks South Carolina is fertile territory. And as you mentioned, Wolf, what a race we have. John Kasich now, we're at 21%. John Kasich at second with 15. Jeb Bush at third with 12. Ted Cruz just tied. That's a tie. Yeah. That's a tie. So third and fourth right there. We'll hold that out. Marco Rubio at 10%. And Christie, Fiorina, and Carson to round it out. This is going to be interesting to watch. This 10, whether it's rounded up or rounded down, you need 10% of the vote in New Hampshire to get any delegates. That is the line. You have to have 10%. Above 10%, you get some of the delegates tonight. New Hampshire's mostly about momentum. But if this race drags on, that could matter. So what are we going to look for as we watch this race for second play out? Kasich has held that second-place spot consistently for now. Third and fourth has jumped back and forth, but with only 21% out, there is absolutely nothing certain here. This drama has a long way to go for a number of reasons. Number one, for Governor Kasich, this is critical for them. They think he does well in these towns from Hanover down along the Connecticut River that separates New Hampshire from Vermont. Well, watch. That's where his campaign says they will run up some numbers. We'll see if that comes true. Some other places that are very important to watch, just let me stretch this out a little bit. Just south of Concord, okay, doesn't want to cooperate. You have Bow here, then you have Hooksett over here. These are two areas where the Kasich campaign says it believes it can do very well. They believe their second place will be when these votes come in. But, Wolf, the biggest chunk we're waiting for are these southern suburbs from Manchester down to the Massachusetts border. This is the key area for the Republicans right in here, and we have nothing. This is where Christie is organized. This is where Bush is organized. This is where Kasich is organized. This is where Rubio has been fighting. We have nothing coming in yet. So as we look at the numbers right now, Kasich has been consistently second, but nothing. There's nothing in from down here. We need to wait and see what happens in these key suburbs right along the Massachusetts border. These decide Republican races.
And both in Manchester and Concord, Trump wins decisively. I think almost all of the votes have been counted in those two cities.
And this is going to be the conversation you were just having. Anderson was just having with the guests over at the table. 29%. So if you're down to a 100% in, if it's a 2 or 3 man race, maybe it's different. But Donald Trump is winning because the establishment vote is so fractured. He's winning Concord, 3% of the population, the biggest basket of votes in New Hampshire is just to the south of here, and over here in Manchester. Donald Trump winning here with 37%, with 92% in. That's impressive. And he's winning all around as well. And this is, again, the establishment vote is fractured. So we'll see what happens when we get to a smaller field. But as you look at the map, Donald Trump winning in tiny rural towns way up here. Donald Trump winning in the small areas in the center of the state. This is ski country around Conway, New Hampshire. Donald Trump winning as you come down here near the Connecticut border. Donald Trump winning on the seacoast. He is winning everywhere. Establishment Republicans, Tea Party Republicans, places where Ron Paul won 4 years ago. People will argue it's because you have so many candidates in the race, but as long as these candidates stay in, as you move on to other states, 34% when there are 8 or 9 candidates in the race, that gets you a victory.
Very impressive win for Donald Trump. Also, on the Democratic side, a very impressive win for Bernie Sanders, the independent senator from neighboring Vermont. But Hillary Clinton won 8 years ago in New Hampshire. She couldn't do it tonight.
She couldn't do it tonight. And as you go back 8 years ago, and let me just bring up the map from 8 years ago, one of the things we have to remember as we go forward here, there were several candidates in the race, but it was essentially a 3-person race at this point between Clinton, Obama, and Edwards. she just won. It was a very, remember, we were up late that night. The Manchester vote came in for Hillary Clinton, and she carried New Hampshire. Come flashback, just look at this for a second. A lot of Clinton, the dark blue. Obama's the lighter blue. He won more of the towns, but Clinton did very well where the people live down here in southern New Hampshire. As we watch this map fill in tonight, got a long way to go. We still have 77% of the vote to count. But so far, one, Bedford, New Hampshire, down here in the south, a small town, important town, 50-49. She just barely beat Bernie Sanders there. It is filling in so far in a small rural town up here in the top. Not many votes, 2-1. There's her victory up there. So far, it's filling in Bernie Sanders. Now, an interesting conversation going on in the political community. If you look at the exit polls, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders ran dead even among Democrats. Bernie Sanders won because of the independents. His margin is coming from the independents who came in. As we head south into other states, remember, a lot more closed primaries where only Democrats can vote. And you also have more African Americans, more Latinos. So the Clinton campaign will say things will get better as we move on. The Sanders campaign will say a huge win tonight here. Maybe it'll get them a second look by a lot of people.
I want to walk over to David Chalian, our political director. You're taking a closer look at this Democratic race, and you got to give Bernie Sanders a huge amount of credit. It's not just because he's from a neighboring state. Hillary Clinton was well known in New Hampshire as well. She just couldn't do it.
That's right. And let's take a look at what is fueling the Sanders victory, because this is just really important, I think, for the contest on the Democratic side going forward. Pay attention to these numbers. We're going to see them again and again in the months ahead. Take a look about young voters, 18 to 29-year-olds. Sanders destroys Clinton on this score, 83% to 16%. They made up about 19% of the overall electorate. He wins them going away. Independent voters, which made up about 4 out of every 10 Democratic primary voters, Sanders again going away, 72% to Clinton's 27% among independents and women. This is the wow number of the night. They are 55% of the electorate, and Sanders beats Clinton among Democratic women 55% to 44%. Those women that participated in the Democratic primary tonight by an 11-point margin gave their vote to Bernie Sanders instead of the person who is potentially the first female
And that's
president.
all women. Among younger women, I think he did even better.
Even more so. A much, much bigger margin.
Younger people really overwhelmingly went with Bernie Sanders as opposed to Hillary Clinton. And that is a wow moment right there. Very impressive win for Bernie Sanders, Anderson. And it's we're going to be hearing from him, we're told, very, very soon. We're also going to be waiting to hear from Donald Trump, 2 major victory speeches.
And we saw the same thing in Iowa. Huge victory for Bernie Sanders among young women voters, in particular over Secretary Clinton, though she did, of course, win narrowly in Iowa. And yet we have not heard in any serious way from African-American voters, from Latino voters in New Hampshire.
Yeah, sure. I think that South Carolina is going to be tough for Bernie, but I still think Hillary Clinton has a chance tonight to do something important. She did get hurt really badly, but don't forget, there are 2 second-place finishers in New Hampshire that came out and gave historically powerful speeches. Bill Clinton, second-place finisher in New Hampshire, comes out, gives a comeback kid speech, and moves on from there. And Barack Obama, President Obama, gets hurt in New Hampshire, walks out there, he gives a speech so inspiring, yes we can, that Will.I.am turns it into a music video. Right. So Hillary Clinton there's a tradition of second-place finishers in New Hampshire reaching into the hat, pulling out a great speech and moving on.
Well, to both of you,
in 2008 went on to become president.
I'm just saying, so even though it's a tough night, she can still do something tonight.
Can Bernie Sanders, though, make inroads in the African-American community? I mean, he's got a number of...
I want to argue with you about this. Can we talk about this?
Sure.
I think that he can. And let me
anyone can make inroads into any community. You have to show up. Yeah. But it also helps to have a history. I mean, it's not like a light switch. You can't just turn it on on election day.
I think there are 2 things here. One is, I'm African American. I've been African American for like a long time now, right. For like a minute.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton, incredibly helpful to me personally. Helped me launch Green for All. Hillary Clinton, incredibly helpful to me personally, ran my first bill, the Green Jobs Act. You have a lot of African Americans in my generation who can point to the Clintons personally and say thank you. But you got a lot of younger African Americans who don't have that story to tell, and they look at they're not looking for female symbols, they're looking for financial solutions. And I think that there's the danger they take these young black voters for granted.
Right. Well, you can never take any voters for granted. Thanks for apparently making the distinction between generations between the 2 of us.
Got to interrupt you guys. Here's Hillary Clinton, her daughter Chelsea, former President Bill Clinton as well. Let's listen in.
I don't know what we'd have done tonight if we'd actually won. This is a pretty exciting event, and I'm very grateful to all of you. I want to begin by congratulating Senator Sanders on his victory tonight, and I want to thank each and every one of you. And I want to say I still love New Hampshire, and I always will. And here's what we're going to do. Now we take this campaign to the entire country. We're going to fight for every vote in every state. We're going to fight for real solutions that make a real difference in people's lives. You know, when I started this campaign last spring, I knew we were facing profound challenges as a country. The way too many things were going just wasn't right. It isn't right that the kids I met in Flint on Sunday were poisoned because their governor wanted to save money. It isn't right for a grandmother here in New Hampshire or anywhere else to have to choose between paying rent and buying medicine because a prescription drug company increased the price 4,000% overnight. And it isn't right that a cashier that I met here in New Hampshire's son is paid less than her son for doing the same work, even though she's been on the job for more years. Now, people have every right to be angry. but they're also hungry. They're hungry for solutions. What are we going to do? And that is the fight we're taking to the country. What is the best way to change people's lives so we can all grow together? Who is the best change maker? And here's what I promise. Here's what I promise. I will work harder than anyone to actually make the changes that make your lives better. In this campaign, you've heard a lot about Washington and about Wall Street. Now, Senator Sanders and I both want to get secret, unaccountable money out of politics. And let's remember, Citizens United, one of the worst Supreme Court decisions in our country's history, was actually a case about a right-wing attack on me and my campaign. A right-wing organization took aim at me and ended up damaging our entire democracy. So yes, you're not going to find anybody more committed to aggressive campaign finance reform than me. We also agree that Wall Street can never be allowed to once again threaten Main Street. And I will fight to rein in Wall Street. And you know what? I know how to do it. So when I tell you no bank can be too big to fail and no executive too powerful to jail, you can count on it. Now, the real differences in this race are truly over how do we create a future of prosperity, opportunity, and security for all of us. We need to build a growth and fairness economy with higher wages and more good-paying jobs, including a bold national mission to create millions of jobs in clean energy, manufacturing, and infrastructure. And we need to unleash again the innovation of our entrepreneurs and small businesses, make it easier for parents to balance work and family, close the loopholes in our tax code, crack down on corporations that game the system, stop other countries from taking advantage of us with unfair trade practices. But even all that is not enough. We also have to break through the barriers of bigotry. African American parents shouldn't have to worry that their children will be harassed, humiliated, even shot because of the color of their skin. Immigrant families shouldn't have to lie awake at night listening for a knock on the door. LGBT Americans shouldn't be fired from their jobs because of who they are or who they love. And let's finally deliver something long overdue, equal pay for women in this economy. So here's how I see it. A president has to do all parts of the job for all Americans to make sure nothing holds you back. Not debt, not discrimination, not a deck that's always stacked for those at the top. We need to break down those barriers and build ladders of opportunity for every person. That's how we will build a better tomorrow together, and that has been the cause and work of my life. You know, my family and my faith taught me a simple credo. Do all the good you can in all the ways you can for all the people you can. That's what called me to a life of service, just like millions of teachers and nurses and police officers and firefighters and members of our armed services who get up every day and do the quiet work, the heroic work for all the rest of us. But when children anywhere in our country go to bed hungry, or are denied a quality education, or who face abuse or abandonment, that diminishes all of us. That's why I did start my career at the Children's Defense Fund. That's why I went undercover in Alabama to expose racism in schools. That's why I worked to reform juvenile justice in South Carolina. And that is why I went to Flint, Michigan on Sunday. people anywhere in America are held back by injustice, that demands action. That is why I believe so strongly that we have to keep up with every fiber of our being the argument for, the campaign for human rights as women's rights, human rights as gay rights, human rights as worker rights, human rights as voting rights, human rights across the board for every single American. Now that is who I am. That is what I've always done. That is why I am in this race. I know I have some work to do, particularly with young people, but I will repeat again what I have said this week. Even if they are not supporting me now, I support them. Because I know I've had a blessed life, but I also know what it's like to stumble and fall. And so many people across America know that feeling. And we've learned it's not whether you get knocked down that matters, it's whether you get back up. So, my friends, please join me in building on the progress we've made under President Obama, pushing forward every single day for as long as it takes to break down those barriers that hold us back. We've got to believe in the basic proposition of our country when all Americans have the chance to succeed, when each of us has the opportunity to live up to our own God-given potential. Then and only then can America live up to its potential as well. So let me thank all of you. I am very grateful to my wonderful family, knowing they are by my side keeps me going every day. To the thousands of volunteers and organizers who called neighbors and knocked on doors in the New Hampshire snow. To everyone who went to HillaryClinton.com to give what you could. More than 700,000 people have contributed to this campaign. The vast majority giving less than $100. I know that doesn't fit with the narrative. I know there are those who want to deny the passion and the purpose you all show every day for this campaign. But you are the reason we are here, and you are the reason we are going to win the nomination and then win this election together. Thank you all. Thank you so very much.
Hillary Clinton giving her concession speech, vowing to move on. We'll expect to hear from Senator Sanders any moment now. His victory speech. Van Jones, Mayor Nutter, what do you hear?
She's learning. She's not. She is. She's listening. She's listening. You know, Kanye West said, "Listen to the kids, yo." And so you can tell she's listening. She's not lecturing the young people. She's trying to. But I'm telling you the difference, and you're going to see it very shortly. She says, I. Right. It's like she's applying for a job that I am going to do this for you. I'm going to do that for you. Bernie talks about we. His theory of change is you have to have a whole movement of people. You have to involve millions of people. And she still seems like her belief is she's a great technocrat. Let me tell you what I can do for you. And I just don't think it works. And you're going to see the difference very soon. But I'll tell you what, you can tell she is listening and she is trying to connect with this youth base. That's very important tonight.
I agree with much of what Van said. I mean, message is very, very important in this election. It's not only what you can do while you're in office, but, you know, a campaign is a campaign. It's a campaign of ideas. The things that Secretary Clinton just talked about are the things that are on people's minds. And so how she communicates her view and the inclusiveness of that vision for governing, I think is the key for her going forward. And, you know, to see other parts of the country that are more representative of the entire United States of America. But people are angry. We see that on both sides, this reaction to the outsider environment and communicating this message to African Americans. And
here is Senator Sanders and his family. Let's listen in.
Hampshire. Shortly after the polls closed, Secretary Clinton called and was very gracious in her congratulations. I thank her for her call, and I congratulate her and her supporters for the vigorous campaign they ran in New Hampshire. And let me take this opportunity to thank the many, many thousands of volunteers here in the Granite State who work so tirelessly. Our volunteers worked night and day, made phone calls, and knocked on a heck of a lot of doors. And we won because of your energy. Thank you all so much. And I want to thank Julia Barnes and our great campaign staff. Together, we have sent the message that will echo from Wall Street to Washington, from Maine to California. And that is that the government of our great country belongs to all of the people and not just a handful of wealthy campaign contributors and their super PACs. Months ago, we began our campaign here in New Hampshire. We had no campaign organization, we had no money, and we were taking on the most powerful political organization in the United States of America. And tonight, with what appears to be a record-breaking voter turnout, because of a huge voter turnout, and I say huge, we won. Because we harnessed the energy and the excitement that the Democratic Party will need to succeed in November. What happened here in New Hampshire in terms of an enthusiastic and aroused electorate, people who came out in large numbers, that is what will happen all over this country. And let us never forget, Democrats and progressives win when voter turnout is high. Republicans win when people are demoralized and voter turnout is low. Tonight, we serve notice to the political and economic establishment of this country that the American people will not continue to accept a corrupt campaign finance system that is undermining American democracy, and we will not accept a rigged economy in which ordinary Americans work longer hours for lower wages, while almost all new income and wealth goes to the top 1%. I want to take this opportunity again to congratulate Secretary Clinton and her organization and supporters for waging a vigorous campaign. I hope that in the days ahead we can continue to wage a strong, issue-oriented campaign and bring new people into the political process. But I also hope that we all remember, and this is a message not just to our opponents, but to those who support me as well, that we will need to come together in a few months and unite this party and this nation, because the right-wing Republicans we oppose must not be allowed to gain the presidency. As we all remember, the last time Republicans occupied the White House, their trickle-down economic policies drove us into the worst economic downturn since the Depression of the 1930s. No, we will not allow huge tax breaks for billionaires. We will not allow huge cuts to Social Security, veterans' needs, Medicare, Medicaid, and education. No, we will not allow back into the White House a political party which is so beholden to the fossil fuel industry that they cannot even acknowledge the scientific reality of climate change, let alone do anything about it. The people of New Hampshire have sent a profound message to the political establishment, to the economic establishment, and, by the way, to the media establishment. The people here have said is that given the enormous crises facing our country, it is just too late for the same old establishment politics and establishment economics. The people want real change. What the American people are saying, and by the way, I hear this not just from progressives, but from conservatives and from moderates, is that we can no longer continue to have a campaign finance system in which Wall Street and the billionaire class are able to buy elections. Americans, no matter what their political view may be, understand that that is not what democracy is about. That is what oligarchy is about. And we will not allow that to continue. I do not have a super PAC, and I do not want a super PAC. I am overwhelmed, and I am deeply moved, far more than I can express in words, by the fact that our campaign's financial support comes from more than 1 million Americans who have made more than $3.7 million individual contributions. That is more individual contributions than any candidate in the history of the United States up until this point in an election. And do you know what that average contribution was? $27. I am going to New York City tonight and tomorrow, but I'm not going to New York City to hold a fundraiser on Wall Street. Instead, I'm going to hold a fundraiser right here, right now, across America. My request is, please go to BernieSanders.com and contribute. Please help us raise the funds we need, whether it's $10 or $20 or $50. Help us raise the money we need to take the fight to Nevada, South Carolina, and the states on Super Tuesday. So there it is. That's our fundraiser. Pretty quick. Now, what the American people understand is that our great country was based on a simple principle, and that principle is fairness. Let me be very clear. It is not fair when we have more income and wealth inequality today than almost any major country on earth, and when the top 0.1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That's not fair. It is not fair when the 20 wealthiest people in this country now own more wealth than the bottom half of the American people. So you guys ready for a radical idea? Together, we are going to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. And when millions of our people are working for starvation wages, yep, we're going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And we are going to bring pay equity for women. And when we need the best educated workforce in the world, yes, we are going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And for the millions of Americans struggling with horrendous levels of student debt, we are going to substantially ease that burden. In America, people should not be financially distressed for decades for the crime of trying to get a higher education. That's absurd. Well, my critics say, you know, Bernie, that's a great idea. You're into all this free stuff. How are you going to pay for it? I will tell you how we're going to pay for it. We're going to impose a tax on Wall Street speculation. The greed, the recklessness, and the illegal behavior of Wall Street drove our economy to its knees. The American people bailed out Wall Street. Now it's Wall Street's time to help the middle class. And when we talk about transforming America, it means ending the disgrace of this country having more people in jail than any other country in the world, disproportionately African American and Latino. Not only are we going to fight to end institutional racism and a broken criminal justice system, we are going to provide jobs and education for our young people, not jails and incarceration. And let me say that as a member of the Energy Committee in the Senate and the Environmental Committee, the debate is over. Climate change is real. It is caused by human activity, and it is already causing devastating problems in this country and around the world. We have a moral responsibility to work with countries throughout the world to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. Now, I have been criticized during this campaign for many, many things. Every single day, that's okay, that's all right. They're throwing everything at me except the kitchen sink, and I have the feeling that kitchen sink is coming pretty soon as well. But what our campaign is about is thinking big, not small. It's about having the courage to reject the status quo. It's about saying that in a time when every major country on earth guarantees health care to all of their people, we should be doing the same in our great country. In my view, under President Obama's leadership, the Affordable Care Act has been an important step forward. No question about it. But we can and must do better. $29 million Americans should not remain uninsured. An even greater number should not be underinsured with large deductibles and co-payments. We should not be paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs at a time, listen to this, when the top 3 drug companies in this country made $45 billion in profit last year. That is an obscenity. And let me tell you something. When we make it to the White House, the pharmaceutical industry will not continue to rip off the American people. And further, it makes no sense that as a nation, we continue to spend far, far more per capita than do the people of any other nation, all of whom guarantee health care to all of their people. And that is why I believe in a Medicare for all single-payer program. Which will not only guarantee health care for all, but will save the average middle-class family thousands of dollars a year in health care costs. My friends, we all know that we live in a dangerous and complex world. As president, I will defend this nation, but I will do it responsibly. I voted against the war in Iraq. And that was the right vote. While we must be relentless in combating terrorists who would do us harm, we cannot and should not be the policemen of the world. Nor should we bear the burden of fighting terrorism alone. In the Middle East, the United States must be part of an international coalition sustained by nations in the region that have the means to protect themselves. Together, we must and will destroy ISIS, but we should do it in a way that does not put our young men and women in the military into perpetual warfare in the quagmire of the Middle East. My friends, we must fix our broken immigration system that divides families and create a path toward citizenship for hardworking people who are living in the shadows. We must strengthen and expand Social Security and increase the benefits that seniors and disabled vets receive so that people can live in dignity in their retirement. We must rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, and when we do that, we create millions of decent-paying jobs. We must pursue the fight for women's rights, for gay rights, for disability rights. We must, against stronger and stronger opposition, protect the right of a woman to control her own body. And we must protect the men and women who serve our nation in uniform and protect our veterans who put their lives on the line to defend us. My friends, we must tell the billionaire class and the 1% that they cannot have it all at a time of massive wealth and income inequality. The wealthiest people and largest corporations in this country will start paying their fair share of taxes. My friends, I am the son of a Polish immigrant who came to this country speaking no English and having no money. My father worked every day of his life, and he never made a whole lot. My mom and dad and brother and I grew up in a small 3.5-room rent-controlled apartment in Brooklyn, New York. My mother, who died at a young age, always dreamed of moving out of that apartment, getting a home of her own, but she never realized that dream. The truth is that neither one of my parents could ever have dreamed that I would be here tonight standing before you as a candidate for President of the United States. This is the promise of America, and this is the promise we must keep alive for future generations. What began last week in Iowa, what voters here in New Hampshire confirmed tonight, is nothing short of the beginning of a political revolution. It is a political revolution that will bring tens of millions of our people together. It will bring together working people who have given up on the political process. It will bring together young people who have never participated in the political process. It will bring together blacks and whites, Latinos, Asian Americans, Native Americans, straight and gay, male and female, people who were born in America and people who immigrated here. We will all come together to say loudly and clearly that the government of our great nation belongs to all of us, not just a few wealthy campaign contributors. That is what this campaign is about. That is what the political revolution is about. So, New Hampshire, thank you again. And now it's on. Thank you, New Hampshire. And now it's on to Nevada, South Carolina, and beyond.
There he is, the winner of the New Hampshire Democratic primary, Senator Bernie Sanders, the independent senator from neighboring Vermont. He has just delivered his victory speech. We earlier heard from Hillary Clinton conceding defeat. Now we're waiting for the other big winner tonight, Donald Trump. He's about to deliver his victory speech in New Hampshire as well. Momentarily, we will be hearing from Donald Trump, the winner of the Republican primary in New Hampshire. But right now, we have another projection. CNN projects John Kasich, the Ohio governor, is coming in second place in the Republican primary in New Hampshire behind Donald Trump. Right now, you see almost half of the vote is now in. Donald Trump is the winner. He's got an amazing 34%, almost 20,000 votes ahead of John Kasich. John Kasich right now is at 16%. There's a battle underway for third place between Ted Cruz. He's at 12%. Jeb Bush, he's at 11%. Marco Rubio, he's at 11%. Chris Christie further down at 8%. Carly Fiorina and Ben Carson, they are way down. But John Kasich needed this second place finish in Ohio. He has now received a second place finish. Take a look at this. We're waiting for Donald Trump. He's the big winner in New Hampshire tonight on the Republican side. He is walking in now to a huge rally in New Hampshire. He's joined by his wife, other members of his family. We're going to hear now from Donald Trump in his victory speech. Let's listen in. Wow. So beautiful. So beautiful.
We are going to make America great again. So I want to thank everybody, but I really have to begin by paying homage to my parents. Mary and Fred, they're up there, they're looking down, they're saying, this is something very special. They love this country, and they're very, very happy right now. So thank you to my parents. I want to thank my sister, Judge Barry, Marianne, really great sister. Another great sister, Elizabeth. My fantastic brother, Robert, who's watching right now with Anne-Marie. And I want to thank my brother, my late brother, Fred. What a fantastic guy. I learned so much from Fred. Taught me more than just about anybody. Just probably about even with my father. A fantastic guy. So I want to thank Fred. He's up there and he's looking down also. And we can go right down the line, but we have to start with Melania, what she puts up with. Oh. She said right from the beginning, you know if you run, you know you're going to win. And she said that from day one. So, Melania, thank you, honey. Thank you. And Don and Vanessa, thank you so much. And Ivanka, she was out. She made 7 stops today at the polling areas. So, very, very special. And Jared is a very, very successful real estate entrepreneur in Manhattan, but he likes this better than real estate, I think. So, Jared, thank you. And Laura and Eric, and they were all out today, and it was amazing. And Corey, where is Corey? Does Corey have a ground game or what? Boy, do we have a ground game? Where's Corey? Corey Lewandowski. You know, we learned a lot about ground games in 1 week, I have to tell you that. And the entire staff, and Hope Hicks. This is Hope, this is Hope, this is Hope. Nobody takes more phone calls, I think, in a day than Hope. So thank you, Hope and Corey, and the entire group, the entire staff. Incredible job. Get over here. Come here. What a job you did. It's the man. So, again, we have to thank the candidates because they really ran. We have some very talented people. And to be victorious against some of these people, even if it's for 1 week, but believe me, it's going to be for many weeks, okay? But they really are. They're terrific. A number of them called, and I just wanted to thank them. But I wanted to congratulate the other candidates, okay? Now that I got that over with. You know, it's always tough, and then tomorrow, boom, boom. But that's the way it is, and really, you have some real talent. We have some real talent in the Republican Party, and the RNC and Reince, we want to thank everybody. Thank you very much. Yeah, right. Well, I'll tell you what. What do we really want to thank, right? We want to thank the people of New Hampshire, right? Do we love the people of New Hampshire? You know, I said it, and I said it even a year ago. I said, I think I'm going to do really well there because I'm here a lot, and it's so beautiful, and I love it so much, and I love the people. And I said, I actually think they like me a lot. And then all of a sudden, we started getting numbers in, and everyone said, how come they like Trump so much? But I have so many friends up here, and they are special, special people. So, New Hampshire, I want to thank you. We love you. We're going to be back a lot. We're not going to forget you. You started it. Remember, you started it. You did start it. You know, when I came out, I heard the end of Bernie's speech, and I heard some of the beginning. No. First of all, congratulations to Bernie. In all fairness, we have to congratulate him. We may not like it, but I heard parts of Bernie's speech. He wants to give away our country, folks. He wants to give away. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let it happen. I don't know where it's going with Bernie. We wish him a lot of luck, but we are going to make America great again, but we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to beat China, Japan. We're going to beat Mexico at trade. We're going to beat all of these countries that are taking so much of our money away from us on a daily basis. It's not going to happen anymore. We have the greatest business people right now in the world. They call me all the time. They want to be involved. We have political hacks negotiating our deals for billions and billions and billions of dollars. Not going to happen anymore. We're going to use the finest business people in the world. We are going to do something so good and so fast and so strong, and the world is going to respect us again. Believe me. We're going to... Do we love our country? Do we love our country? I think one of the things that really caught on is very important, self-funding my campaign. Everybody on both sides. And, you know, I was saying 2 weeks ago, I said, I don't think people really appreciate it because I see all of this money being poured into commercials, and it's not their money, it's special interest money. And this is on both sides. This is on the Republican side, the Democrat side, money just pouring into commercials. These are special interests, folks. These are lobbyists. These are people that don't necessarily love our country. They don't have the best interests of our country at heart. We're not going to let it happen. We can't. We have to do something about it. When you see the kind of deals made in our country, a lot of those deals are made because the politicians aren't so stupid. They're making them for their benefit. We have to stop it. We have to stop it. We are now going to make it for your benefit. We're going to make the deals for the American people. That's the way it is. Now, oh, I love this. Look at you. Look at you. I love these signs. They're the most imaginative signs. So look, in a nutshell, we're going to make great trade deals. We're going to rebuild our military. It's going to be so big, so strong, so powerful. Nobody is going to mess with us. Believe me, nobody. We are going to take care of our vets. Where is Al? Where is Al? We love Al. All right, Al? Get up here if you can. We're going to take care of our vets. Our vets are treated horribly. They're our greatest people. Our vets are going to be taken care of, and you remember that, everybody. Right? We're going to have strong, incredible borders, and people are going to come into our country, but they're going to come into our country legally. They're going to come in legally. We're going to build a wall. It's going to be built. It's not even, believe it or not, it's not even a difficult thing to do. And by the way, for the people of New Hampshire, where you have a tremendous problem with heroin and drugs, you wouldn't even believe it. You see this place and you say it's so beautiful. You have a tremendous problem. The first thing always that they mention to me, Mr. Trump, please do something. The drugs, the heroin, it's pouring in, and it's so cheap because there's so much of it. And the kids are getting stuck, and other people are getting stuck. We're going to end it. We're going to end it. We're going to end it at the southern border. It's going to be over. And we're going to work, and we're going to work really hard to get those people that are so addicted off the habit. We're going to work like hell to take care of the situation. It's a huge problem in New Hampshire. It's a huge problem all over our country. We're going to have borders again, and we're going to work with you people to help you solve that very big problem, and we'll get it done. That's so beautiful. What a group of people. You know, and on top of this group, we have thousands of people outside that can't even get in. That's what we have. Thousands of people. Healthcare. We're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. It is a total disaster. We're repealing and replacing Obamacare. It's gone. We're getting rid of Common Core. We're going to educate our children locally. We educate our children locally. We are going to preserve our very sacred Second Amendment. There's not going to be any more chipping away at our Second Amendment. If we had protection in California recently and so many other places, you could even look to Paris. Paris has the toughest gun laws in the world. France has the toughest gun laws in the world. These animals go in, they start shooting 1, 2, 3, 130 people, with many people horribly wounded right now in the hospital. If there were bullets going in the other direction, believe me, it would have been a whole different story, folks. But nobody had protection. I am going to be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. Remember that. Don't believe those phony numbers when you hear 4.9 and 5% unemployment. The number's probably 28, 29, as high as 35. In fact, I even heard recently 42%. Do you think we'd have gatherings like this if we had 5% unemployment? Do you really think we'd have these gatherings? Forgetting about security, forgetting about ISIS, which, by the way, we're going to knock the hell out of ISIS. We're going to knock the hell out of them. And it's going to be done the right way. So we're going to take care of the economy. We're going to take care of jobs. We're going to take care of all of the things that I said. Our border, everything, health care. It's going to be so great. Remember this about Obamacare. People are forgetting, but now they're miserable because it's going up 45%, 35%, 55%. It's totally out of control. Probably sinks of its own volition in 2017, unless the Republicans give it another. I mean, what's going on? What's going on? The budget, the last budget that was approved, is an absolute disaster for everybody in this country. We owe $19 trillion as of today. We just crossed the $19 trillion mark. We're going to very shortly be at $21 trillion because of the budget. We are going to make our country so strong. We are going to start winning again. We don't win anymore as a country. We don't win on trade. We don't win with the military. We can't beat ISIS. We don't win with anything. We are going to start winning again, and we're going to win so much. You are going to be so happy. We are going to make America so great again, maybe greater than ever before. I love you all. Thank you, New Hampshire. Thank you. Thank you, New Hampshire. Thank you. We are going now to South Carolina. We're going to win in South Carolina. I love you all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And let's listen in to Governor John Kasich, who is in second place in New Hampshire. Let's listen.
Well, first of all, my daughters are at home, Emma and Reese, and we're all happy because they're not driving tomorrow. But how about my family, Emma and Reese, and of course my great wife, Karen Kasich. And here in New Hampshire, I have to tell you, there's no way I would have gone forward with this campaign if it wasn't for John Sununu, the great Senator John Sununu. He's such a great partner. He's so smart, and he's so disciplined, and he's just a great, great friend of mine. And we also want to spend a little time thanking former Senator Gordon Humphrey. Now, this man is... We were 1% in the national polls, and people are like, how can you ever win? And then, things are just, we're walking in a total obscurity up here. And Gordon Humphrey sends me an email, and he says, this is the hot plate that changed the world. Guys are sleeping on mattresses in the campaign headquarters, and they hold up a hot plate where they're eating their food. That's how you win elections. That's how you do it. And, of course, our great friend Tom Rath, the former Attorney General. He's been one of the best guys I could have. Where is Tom Rath? And 17 years ago, I came here, and, you know, I thought things were going okay. You know, I wasn't getting a lot of attention, and was standing in the kitchen, and I was talking to this lady, and I'm thinking, I've got myself a town chairperson here. I mean, this lady really, really likes me. And after about 15 minutes, she looked at her watch, and she said, when will the candidate get here? Can you tell us? But the guy that stuck with me for 17 years, Bruce Berkey. Where is Bruce? Bruce. Come on up here. And listen, I want to tell you, and there's just no way to say this appropriately. When the media kept saying, well, how are you going to do this? You know, can you finish high? You know what I said? I have an insurance policy. It's you. It's all of you. How does a guy like me thank you for the countless hours, the phone calls, the door knocking? Some of you have come from, of course, our Buckeye State, and some have come from Virginia, and some have come from Maryland and New York and Connecticut, and today all the way from Seattle, and a guy that, New Haven, okay, and a guy flew in from London, England to do this. What can I tell you? But you know, there's something that's going on that I'm not sure that anybody can quite understand. There's magic in the air with this campaign because we don't see it as just another campaign. We see this as an opportunity for all of us, and I mean all of us, to be involved in something that's bigger than our own lives, to change America, to reshine America, to restore the spirit of America, and to leave no one behind. Am I right? That's what we're all fighting for. You know, something big happened tonight. And let me tell you what it is. Let me tell you what it is. We have had tens and tens of millions of dollars spent against us with negative advertising, okay? We have. We've had tens of millions. See, that's the old politics. That's the old politics. We never went negative because we have more good to sell than to spend our time being critical of somebody else. And maybe, just maybe, at a time when clearly change is in the air, maybe, just maybe, we are turning the page on a dark part of American politics, because tonight, the light overcame the darkness of negative campaigning. And you made it happen. You made it happen. You made it happen. You made it happen. Now, you know, we're conservatives here. We believe government is a last resort and not as a first resort. And as I like to talk about the strength of our country, and if you think about the American home, which is the family, we know that the family is only strong when the foundation is strong. And that's why we will wake up every single day to make sure that every American has a job in the United States of America to help their families. And when I'm President of the United States, first of all, you know, we're going to have a battering ram to knock down the walls of the city if they don't want to change. It's what I've done all of my lifetime. But here's what we're going to tell people, I believe, and you think about it, I hope you agree. We're going to solve the problems in America not by being extreme, not by being first a Republican or a Democrat, but reminding everybody that we are Americans dedicating to shining up America and fixing our problems. Fixing our problems. This campaign's changed me. The people of New Hampshire, the wonderful people of New Hampshire have changed me. And I want to tell you how it happened. I don't know, you know, I don't know if it happened in the first 25 town halls or the second 25 or the third 25. But as we got closer and closer to those 100 town halls, the 106 that we finally finished on, people, for some reason, were able to come to these town halls and feel safe. A man came the other day and he was crying at the end of the town hall and put his arms around me and said, "My son's got cancer." And I feel as though I didn't warn him. And I said, "Sir, it's sad. It's a tragedy. It's terrible. But it's not your fault." He communicated to somebody the other day and said, that conversation lifted a weight off of his shoulders. But and he came from New York to tell me his story. And some of you remember the woman that was sitting way up in the seats, and she told the story of her daughter who had been sick from being a child, and she felt all alone. And I asked her to come down, and I hugged that woman, and we all cried a little bit that night. And not long ago, at one of the big town halls, a lady sitting in the back, after we had gone through the mechanics of fighting drugs, she brought in the real flesh and blood. And she talked about her 31-year-old daughter, who had been 11 months sober. And I looked around the room and said, can you imagine how hard it is to be a mom who at one point just held that little baby in her arms, to have to wake up every day and ask the good Lord, and the good Lord is listening, to have her daughter recover. Now, when you are in settings like that, you begin to learn something. There are too many people in America who don't feel connected. They've got victories that no one celebrates with them. And they have defeats and pain sometimes that they have to absorb themselves. I'll tell you what I really think we need. We need this economic growth and the job creation. But at the heart and soul of the United States of America, the America that I grew up in Little McKee's Rocks, where my father carried mail and stuck his nose into everybody's business and brought some joy at a time of triumph, and was able to be on the step and cry with them when they lost somebody they loved. You see, that's the America that I know, where we slow down our lives. We slowed down our lives, and let's just leave this hall tonight, and I would ask you to just reflect on this. Because, you see, we're all made to change the world. We're all made to be a part of the healing of this world. And if we would just slow down, and by the way, heal the divisions within our own families, be willing to listen to the person that lives next door when you're in such a hurry to get out of the driveway, or such a hurry to get out of the shopping center. Just slow down. Look them in the eye. Give them a hug. You see, it doesn't take government. It takes our hearts to change America. And in this campaign, I've become convinced even more about what it takes to win a political campaign, and what it takes for somebody to be a leader. It's not just what's up here in the head. It's also what's deep in here in the heart. And the people of New Hampshire have taught me a lesson. And from this day forward, I'm going to go slower and spend my time listening and healing and helping and bringing people together to fix our great country. Thank you. Now, well, listen, folks, I know the networks want to go. You know, Bernie talked so long, I thought he was going to hit his 77th birthday before he got off the stage. And I mean, Hillary, you just needed this much and head to South Carolina because it ain't working here, okay? It's not working here, okay? And it's not going to work here for them next fall either because I'm coming back to New Hampshire. Well, how could any man be so lucky, huh? To have all of you, to be so happy about life and family and the fact that the Lord's blessed me. We are at the beginning of this campaign season. Tonight we head to South Carolina, and we will move through South Carolina all across this country, and we'll end up in the Midwest, and you just wait. Let me tell you, there's so much going to happen. If you don't have a seatbelt, go get one. We're going to shake this country from top to bottom. Thank you all very much, and God bless you.
Second place finisher, Governor John Kasich. There you see him giving his speech after Donald Trump gave his victory speech. If you look right now for the battle for third place, Cruz is in third place with 17,760 votes. With some, I think it's 56% of the vote in. But look at Bush. Look at the numbers there, 17,184, just a difference of some little less than 600 votes. So a very close race right now for third place. As we've been listening now to these speeches, Gloria, David, what do you make?
To me, Hillary Clinton gave a speech looking forward, that is, to South Carolina.
Yes.
It's as if she was out of the state. Bernie Sanders gave a rousing kind of stump speech that those of us who've been out with him have heard before.
Sort of introducing himself, perhaps, to a population who has not seen him.
And John Kasich.
When your crowd is finishing your lines, it's a sign that maybe you got to freshen up the speech.
And John Kasich gave a personal, heartfelt speech about New Hampshire and what those town hall meetings meant to him. And it was evangelical in a sense without being evangelical. I mean, Van and I were talking, and Van said it was sort of spiritual to a degree. And he was introducing himself as well, don't you think, to the to the American public who has no idea.
The question is, does John Kasich have a path forward through South Carolina?
That is the question. Look, he's been pursuing his own track in this whole. You watch the debate, it's almost as if he's talking to a different crowd than everybody else. He's almost running a general election campaign in the primary, and that works in a state like New Hampshire where you have large numbers of independents who are coming over and you have a divided field. He's sitting there with 16% of the vote. The question is, when you go south on March 1st, and before that in South Carolina, can he find a market for this message within the Republican Party as it's constituted today? And I don't know the answer.
I mean, I wouldn't count him out in South Carolina. I think his kind of Midwestern folksy way will play pretty well down there. It's a sort of Southern swagger. He talked about slowing down, for instance.
The question is more about money and organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got about, what? I mean, last I checked, cash on hand was about $1 million.
He'll have more,
he'll have more after this. And he trained his attention, as you said, to the general election campaign as well. I thought it's clear that he has gotten better as a candidate, and those 99 town halls have helped. I think Trump has also gotten better as a candidate. When he talked about heroin, not only is heroin a huge problem in New Hampshire, it is ravaging white working class America. And the National Review has been writing about this for months and months and months. And other people might not hear what he's saying, but I think it resonates with that group of folks.
The contrast between Donald Trump and John Kasich could not have been more dramatic. I began my morning today in Manchester with Governor Kasich on my radio program in a tiny diner, and he was making that pitch that it's time to slow down and listen to your neighbor. I'd never heard such a creative presentation. Here's the issue. Will practicality set in for the Republican Party? Because this electorate mirrors the national electorate in terms of the number of independents who hold the cards to a general election. And Kasich gave the Republican Party tonight an indication of how he could win in a general if they're wise enough to advance his candidacy.
But here's the problem for Republicans with John Kasich. He took President Obama's Medicaid money as part of Obamacare. He doesn't believe in deporting illegal immigrants. And he also leaves the door open to a pathway to citizenship.
Or legalization.
And Common Core, he supported.
For illegal immigrants. Yeah. Right. And he has supported Common Core. So the question is, where does he have his support in the Republican Party? The Kasich campaign says, okay, we've got support in Michigan. We'll have support in Ohio. We'll have support in Florida if you get rid of Jeb and Rubio.
The question is, can they get there?
Can they get there? Right.
Because that's later on in March.
And even just tonally, what you heard tonight was very chicken soup for the soul. And that's great. You know, slow down, hug your neighbor. That's great. I loved that. But where the party's at right now is a lot more art of the deal, right? So I don't know that he can cut through and sell Republicans in South Carolina or Nevada on chicken soup for the soul. What I did find very interesting, however, out of Trump was winning looks good on Donald Trump. He thanked his family, family members we'd never heard of before. he thanked the voters. He remembered to thank the voters.
Yeah.
He thanked the other candidates and congratulated the other candidates. He didn't call anyone a name. It was a very, I thought, a very good look for Donald Trump. And you know, I'm not his target.
You up right now.
I'm not his target voter. But if I were to give him or his campaign any advice, more of that.
Well, which does argue to Jeffrey something that Trump has said all along, which that he would change his tone or change his demeanor as events warn, and if he actually makes it to the White House, whether or not that's true or not or possible.
Campaigns are tough. I'm looking over there at David, who was in a very tough campaign against Hillary Clinton, and she wound up as his Secretary of State. This is what candidates do. This is what they're expected to do. And furthermore, if you don't do it, you will lose. So he's turned out here to be the toughest of the tough. He's done very well, but then you have to turn around, you have to pivot, and you have to make nice with all these folks, and I think he's on his way to doing it.
Well, I just want to say a couple things. One is, I thought, I was happy that Kasich wound up where he did for one reason: work. He put the work in. And there's something very, very wrong with America if somebody could literally go and spend month after month through 100 town halls and wind up in last place. I think it's very important that the voters actually rewarded the work. I actually think also that spiritual message about us taking care of each other, it may be too chicken soup for the soul for some people, but I'm telling you, it is a welcome message. There's a lot of pain out there. There's a lot of hurt out there. And I think you can't be eyeball to eyeball with the hurt in New Hampshire or any place else without being changed. I thought that was very important. But the person we haven't talked about is Marco Rubio. The floor. Listen, the only question a few days ago before that debate was, is he going to clear the field of all the other establishment candidates, or will he clear the bar and get ahead of Trump? Suddenly, the question is, was he going to stall or fall? He fell. He's fifth. I think that Chris Christie, and you said it earlier, Axelrod, I think Chris Christie's going to go down in history as somebody who made one of those history-defining debate moments people will study for a long time.
By the way, Chris Christie put in a lot of work. I'm sure he's listening to you saying, well, what about me?
Yeah.
I put in all the work.
Did you see that former Governor Hogan of Maryland, who's supporting Christie, introduced him tonight, and it says on another network, he introduced him in the past tense.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if he
You're certainly seeing, again, on the Republican side, more of, quote-unquote, these establishment candidates moving up, making their presence felt. Again, not wild, not outlandish, just making that steady progress. But I want to go back to earlier speech. I gave my critique with regard to Secretary Clinton. 3 quick points on Senator Sanders' speech. And he was gracious, and he put everything out there. I think, as was said earlier, we've heard many of these things before. But 3 very quick things. One, it is now absolutely clear that Senator Sanders is literally running against the record of President Barack Obama. Secondly, almost every time I've heard him talk about African Americans and Latinos, it's been with regard to either jail or criminal justice. I find this slightly offensive. And third, he identifies 99 problems. But we rarely ever hear any solutions to any of those and the details that go with it. So we heard tonight this tax on Wall Street speculation. Very interesting idea. I'd like to hear more details about those things. So I think as time moves on, we're going to have to get into the details of what it means to be an executive.
Van, I see you shaking your head on...
I didn't hear him say one negative word about President Obama at all. And I think that one of the things that you're going to start seeing...
Talk about the status quo.
Well, listen,
where are we now?
Where the status quo is right now is a result not of President Obama, but of the obstruction that we have from the Republican Party. And the idea that you can't say you want America to be better without somehow offending Obama doesn't make any sense to me.
All I'm saying is he says that the president has let progressives down. And it's a constant theme.
But this is going to be, what you're going to see now is
what does that mean?
What you're going to see now is the establishment say that any critique of America, any critique of Hillary Clinton is a critique of President Obama. You can love President Obama, as I do, but not love everything about the Obama years and still want more.
David, I want you to weigh in, and then we got to...
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is I don't think he talked so much about 98 things, is that he talks about one thing all the time, and he's very good at it, and it's a compelling riff. And the question is it a broad enough message to ultimately win the day?
It's slightly facetious in the 99 things. I mean, it's about 3 things, really.
Let's go to Jake Tapper. We'll continue this conversation in a moment. Jake?
Thanks, Anderson. So many stories coming out of New Hampshire this evening. One of them, of course, being Marco Rubio's surprisingly unimpressive showing. We heard a surprising admission from him just a few minutes ago, speaking to his supporters. Let's play that.
Many people disappointed. I'm disappointed with tonight. I want you to understand. But I want you to understand something. I want you to understand something. Our disappointment tonight is not on you. It's on me. It's on me. I did not do well on Saturday night, so listen to this. That will never happen again. That will never happen
again. Very interesting. Dana Bash, Marco Rubio saying it's on me for his bad showing, and it's specifically blaming his disappointing showing this evening to his debate performance, saying I did not do well Saturday night. That will not happen again.
It was a human moment for somebody who has been accused of not being human. I mean, that was the whole underpinning of the sort of, punch and counterpunch and then punch again that Chris Christie gave him. And Marco Rubio really kind of fed into it by saying the same line over and over again in that debate. I have to say that I saw Marco Rubio at one of the polling places earlier today, and he was talking to a voter who was undecided before going in. She asked her issue, which for her was about cancer research, because her husband has cancer. And after he left, she told me, I actually found him to be much more engaging than I did at a town hall, where she said she saw him and she said she got a headache because she thought that he repeated himself so many times and he was so robotic. But still, she went into the voting booth. She came out. I said, so did you get your vote? And she said, no. And I think that that was part of the problem, is that in just a couple of days, really hours, that sort of image of him stuck with a lot of these voters. A lot of voters who were taking a second, third, fourth look at him after he did so well in Iowa were really turned off just like that.
Look what was important to the voters of New Hampshire this evening with victories. Big, surprisingly huge victories for Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. Both of them, whether you like them or not, very authentic seeming. Manu Raju is at Rubio campaign headquarters, I believe in Concord, New Hampshire. Manu, tell us more about the speech and the mood there among supporters and among campaign officials.
That's right, Jake. A lot of very disappointing mood here, almost subdued as candidates really, as voters really soaked in the news that their candidate really underperformed tonight. It was a surprising admission, as you guys said, and it was also disappointing to Republicans in Washington. I think I spoke to two senior Republican officials who hoped that New Hampshire would almost narrow the Republican field and the party would be able to quickly coalesce an alternative behind an alternative to Donald Trump or Ted Cruz, and that alternative, of course, potentially being Marco Rubio. We saw a wave of support come to his way after Iowa. They were assuming that a wave of support would happen after New Hampshire. But what the real fear now is in Republican circles is that this is fight for the establishment lane, so to speak. That fight to be the Donald Trump alternative is going to last weeks and weeks and weeks, and Donald Trump will get stronger and become very hard to beat. Now, what does this mean for the Bush and Rubio campaigns going forward? They don't believe, neither of them believe, that John Kasich presents a serious threat in South Carolina, given that the electorate there is much more conservative than John Kasich, who ran as a much more moderate candidate. But both of them see each other as their biggest threat going forward. So expect the race between Bush and Rubio to get much more intense in the coming weeks. And what that does for the fight against Donald Trump really throws that into disarray, Jake.
All right, Manu Raju in Nashua at Rubio campaign headquarters. And it's very interesting. You seldom see a politician come out and say, it's all on me, blame it on a specific event, and then promise that it won't happen again.
It is. One thing to look for going forward, and talking to Kasich sources before tonight, is in South Carolina, which of course is the next big fight. What Kasich aides tell me is that they are going to fight very hard to damage Jeb Bush. Because they think that for the long haul, for the Kasich team, that's going to help them. But I think that what that could also do is help Marco Rubio. Because if Jeb Bush is damaged in South Carolina, if the Kasich folks are successful, that can only help Marco Rubio kind of get back on his feet in a place, South Carolina, where he does have a very good organization, where he is campaigning and has been campaigning a lot, and does tend to gravitate towards candidates like Marco Rubio, he's good on defense, he's more mainstream and moderate, and historically that's how South Carolina has gone for the Republicans.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes when you attack somebody in one of these situations, you might hurt that other candidate, but you don't help yourself.
That's
that
right.
seemed to be what happened with Chris Christie, who so devastatingly took down Marco Rubio at the debate on Saturday night, but is disappointing, is facing a disappointing sixth-place finish. Phil Mattingly is in Nashua at, I believe, Nashua, at Christie campaign headquarters. Phil, not a good night for the governor of New Jersey.
No, not at all, Jake. And look, he just came out, spoke to a crowd here, pretty downtrodden, sullen group of people, said he was canceling his scheduled events in South Carolina. He would be going home to New Jersey to, quote, take a breath. He and his wife, Mary Pat, and his kids would discuss what will happen next. Now, going into this night, it was very clear that Chris Christie needed to come in at least fifth place. That was the requirement to qualify for the debate in South Carolina. For his campaign, it was a shift in metrics, Jake. It had always been over the last couple weeks, he needed to become the top governor. Now, you spoke to him today, Jake, and he reiterated that it was not just that anymore. The debate where he really stunned Marco Rubio and kind of slapped him around a little bit had shifted the race entirely. They felt good about their internals, and it was no longer that he had to be the top governor, but because the race had become so muddled in the wake of that debate, he just needed to finish in that top five to move forward. Obviously, he missed that today. They will take a break, go home, and talk about it. Now, here's some of the things they have to consider. I've been speaking to a number of Christie donors over the last 2 hours as they've watched these returns come in. A number of them here in New Hampshire had a private dinner about an hour and a half ago where they were increasingly on edge as they watched these returns come in. The big problem is they don't have the money to move forward right now, Jake, so obviously those conversations will be happening in New Jersey. A lot to weigh, but a lot of questions about whether he can go on, Jake.
All right, Phil Mattingly at Christie campaign headquarters. They're taking a deep breath over there. No decisions about whether or not Governor Christie is going to leave the race, but they have to take stock, the campaign says.
They do, and that was some great reporting from Phil Mattingly talking about that there was a dinner that the donors for Christie were having and really, you know, probably having trouble digesting watching those numbers go down, because that really is, at the end of the day, what matters, right? I mean, he needs money. He needs money to go on, and they were, for everything that I've heard, out of money you don't get people to take a second look at you when you do so poorly. But I really think that when he made that move against Marco Rubio in the debate to really go at him, it was sort of a kamikaze mission, don't you think?
Well, he definitely...
Maybe that wasn't the intention, but that's what happened.
I don't know if it hurt him so much, but it definitely damaged Marco Rubio. But the lesson always is, you might hurt that person, but you might also hurt yourself.
Exactly.
We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, I am going to interview the Republican winner of tonight's activities, the New Hampshire primary winner, Donald Trump. We're going to come back and talk to him right after this very quick break.
All right, let's update you with a CNN key race alert on the Democratic side. Bernie Sanders, a crushing victory over Hillary Clinton. Right now, 66% of the vote is in. He's got 60%. She only has 38%. He's 35,000 votes ahead of Hillary Clinton. She's conceded. He is the winner, as you know. On the Republican side, Donald Trump with a very impressive win. He comes in first over John Kasich. He's got 34%. Kasich, 16%. He wins by, at least as of now, with 67% of the vote in, almost 34,000 votes. Another very impressive win for Donald Trump tonight. But look at this fight for third place right now between Ted Cruz at 12%, Jeb Bush at 11%, Marco Rubio at 10%. This fight for third place ongoing right now. Not very many votes, just a few hundred votes separating Ted Cruz and Jeb Bush right now. Marco Rubio not doing so well. And Chris Christie obviously coming in, at least as of right now, in sixth place. Very disappointing for him as well. Now, Jake Tapper spoke to the winner of the Republican primary, Donald Trump. Jake?
Thanks, guys. I'm joined on the phone right now by the winner of the New Hampshire Republican primary, one Mr. Donald J. Trump. Mr. Trump, congratulations on your victory. Did you ever think that this was going to happen?
Well, it's been a really wonderful evening, Jake. And, you know, I thought it might, but I didn't know by these numbers. And I was so happy. I just looked at your report, and it was right across the board, with men, with women, with young, with old, with, you know, everything. And to win every single category was perhaps the greatest honor of all.
And it looks like, obviously, the voting results are still coming in, but it looks like this is the biggest victory in a Republican primary since George W. Bush lost to John McCain in New Hampshire 16 years ago. How does it feel?
Well, I didn't know that number. That's a long time. That's a great feeling to know that it's been that big of a victory, but it's a lot of years. But I will tell you, it's just an honor to have won. As you know, I told you if I win by one vote, I'll be happy. But this makes me even happier. I will say that, Jake.
It's by a bit more than one vote. So if you look at the exit polls, you'll see that voters were looking for an outsider. They're mad at the Republican establishment. What do you think in particular about your message resonated with the voters of New Hampshire?
Well, I think it started with trade and the fact that we're being just ripped off by everybody, whether it's China, Japan, Mexico. And I think it really ended up being very much borders and security and other things having to do with security. And then you have the migration and you have ISIS, and all of a sudden it morphed into that. And I think because of the fact that I had done so well with the border and done so well with the wall, which will be built, I think what happened is people started saying that I would also be the best with respect to ISIS and some of the outer problems that we have. So it seems that the whole security thing, the military thing, the fact that I'm going to take care of the vets far better than anybody else will be able to, it all sort of came down to that. But it seems like pretty much of a victory in every category. And, of course, the easiest thing of all for me is going to be trade and jobs, because that's really what I do.
In terms of how you won in New Hampshire, did you pay more attention, did your campaign pay more attention to the ground game, to getting your voters to the polls, to making sure that they were motivated, as opposed to the approach of big rallies?
Well, I think the ground game was very strong, and I tell you, we really focused on it after Iowa. You know, the ground game was not something I was extremely familiar with, but I learned quickly. Otherwise, the voters wouldn't like me too much. And I think you know, I learned very well, and we have a very good ground game. And, you know, the people of New Hampshire are amazing people. And now I'm going to South Carolina, and I think we're going to have tremendous success there. We were just there, and I had 12,000 people in a wonderful, wonderful arena. And to be honest with you, the ground game was very important to me, and I think we really learned about ground games very quickly.
As you may know, South Carolina, they like their politics a little bit more rough and tumble. Are you ready for what may come your way, the negative attacks and perhaps even dirty tricks that might happen in the Palmetto State?
Well, we've already had dirty tricks in this campaign, so, I'm ready for whatever they want to throw at me, and that's fine. I mean, we've had a lot of dirty tricks in this campaign, but, I want to congratulate everybody that's run. They're all very capable people, and it was an honor to run against them, and now I'll see them in a little while. Like, I'll be around 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock tomorrow. I'll be in South Carolina getting ready, and that should be interesting. I love South Carolina. I mean, the people I've been there many, many times, and the people are tremendous people, and I think I can do very well there.
There's a big competition, obviously, for second place and third place in New Hampshire right now. Who do you think is your competition going forward? Is it Ted Cruz? Do you see some rejuvenation for Jeb Bush and John Kasich? Who are you focused on?
I see them all, Jake. I really see them all. I think, they're all good competitors and talented people. And, right now it looks like Kasich has a little bit of a lead. But the other way, I'm just looking at your chart. Yep, it's getting a little bit closer. It's going to be a close race, I think. And you sort of predicted that, and so did CNN and the whole group. It looks like it's going to be a pretty close race for second.
Lastly, you've been campaigning more with your family, your wife Melania, your boys Don and Eric. How are they taking the news? This is a big, big night in Trump family history.
Well, they're very proud. Melania's standing with me right now, and Don and Eric and Ivanka. Corey's right outside, who's done a terrific job. And I was, in fact, he just walked in now, so I will comment on his ground game, which was excellent. But it's been an amazing period of time, and we're all thrilled. And we want to make America great again. It's very simple. We're going to make America great again.
Well, congratulations on a very, very strong win in New Hampshire. Best of luck to you. We'll see you out there on the campaign trail, Mr. Trump.
Thank you very much, Jake. You take care of yourself. Thank you.
Jake, thanks very much. A lot to talk about with our panel. Jeffrey Lord, I mean, all along, you're one of the few people who picked on Donald Trump early on and said you think he can go all the way. Who do you see as his biggest competition? I mean, he says he's looking at all of them.
Well, I think it is all of them at the moment. I mean, they've got to decide. They've got to sort themselves out. And John Kasich is number 2. Was having a conversation with our friend Michael Smerconish over there, and he said, egos, if I may quote you. These guys all have big egos.
Right.
And who's going to push who out? I mean, they're all going to be saying, you leave. No, you leave.
Right.
That's going to be the problem here for them.
It's also interesting when you think, Michael, after Iowa, there were a lot of people saying, okay, this is now a 3-man race. You have Cruz, you have Rubio, and you have Donald Trump. That's out the window now. I mean, now Bush seems to be back in the game. I mean, Christie is going to take a breather, but now you have Kasich as well.
It's funny, you just referenced Cruz. We haven't said a word about Ted Cruz today. Ted Cruz won the Iowa caucus, and yet tonight he is a total non-entity, which I think speaks to the volatility of this race.
Although he is in third place with 70% of the vote.
I think he's going to be well satisfied with that win.
He just put out
Cruz played this like a master.
Yes.
Cruz knew that the most important thing that can happen to him is nothing. Don't get beat up. Don't get drugged through. Wait this thing out and then go to South Carolina and start putting people in body bags.
Yeah.
Cruz is very, very smart.
And to stand back as Rubio gets pummeled on stage there. I mean, that was very important to him. He is going to face Donald Trump, who's already running ads in South Carolina, pointing to those loans from Goldman Sachs and pointing to the Carson-Cruz kind of dust-up from Iowa. So
but when Rubio finished third...
Yeah.
It was, as Cruz is fond of saying, he got the bronze and you treated it like a gold medal. Tonight, Cruz is third, and we're not treating it like a gold medal, and Rubio is fifth so far. I mean, we don't know what the numbers are going to hold up, and we're basically saying, okay, this was
that's pretty much because Cruz basically just showed up for the medal ceremony and left with the bronze. I mean, he hasn't even spent much time in New Hampshire.
And Rubio has money. He's got to win somewhere. I mean, he's got to do well
Rubio's
somewhere.
in trouble.
And he's got
Rubio's
to put in
I
the
think he
work,
is.
right? He hasn't really put in the work. His theory was, I do well in third, turn it into a kind of win,
Third,
then second, and then first.
Right.
And then if I win, then the infrastructure and sort of the work would come in. He thought that he could run essentially a debate and television campaign, campaign.
Rubio has also been positioning himself, I think, very effectively as the candidate who can win. And we're seeing returns, both in Iowa, the entrance polling, and in New Hampshire, among Republicans who prioritize a candidate who can win. They go with Rubio.
And in New
so
Hampshire, that
that's
was
why
14%.
It wasn't
Well,
many.
it's not a lot, but he's winning that lane. And he knows as more people drop out, and if it's, Trump and Cruz as sort of the anger candidates, there's going to be room for an electable, moderate
but
candidate.
his other pitch, Jesse, was that I can appeal to all the factions of the Republican Party. I can unite the Republican Party. And he's tried to do that. He's tried to ride all three horses at once, the social conservatives, the Tea Party, and the establishment. I think that's a hard straddle to pull off. And I think you may end up having, warm feelings among...
You're also now going to have... I mean, if Christie is taking a breather, and again, we don't want to be misquoted here, so that's all he said. He's just taking a breather. We don't know what it means further on than that. But you're going to have Jeb Bush going after continuing to hit Rubio hard.
Right,
and if Jeb Bush is revived or more confident now in the next debate, who knows what can happen.
I think part of Jeb's argument is that he is partly electable because he can take on Donald Trump, right? He's the one who's been going after Donald Trump most aggressively, certainly in that last debate and throughout this, because that's the final contest in some ways.
Bush's goal tonight was to beat Marco Rubio. Now, so far, it's really close.
Still close.
Yeah. We don't know, but so far it seems to be working out, even though it might only be by a percentage or
Here's
so.
the thing
but
about
this
Rubio,
keeps
though.
Bush very much in the running.
This is a true moment, not just a political, in your life. When you make a mistake like that in public for the whole world to see, I was proud that he stood up and he said, "Listen, it's on me." He didn't start blaming, somebody stole the votes or whatever. He said, look, this is on me. I thought that showed a lot of character. Now you're going to have to watch these next couple of days. Is he going to be able to come back in there?
We got to take a quick break. A lot more as more results are coming in. We'll be right back.